Chapter 1350. Zhao Fu grabbed with his hand, and countless traces of black divine aura flowed out, turning into a massive black hand that gave off a massive aura and shook the surroundings as it grabbed towards the Emperor-killing sword. Shing! The Emperor-killing sword shot out countless traces of black and blood-red swordlight, slashing Zhao Fu's black hand into countless traces of black aura and dissipating. Bang! The Emperor-killing sword descended and stabbed into the ground in front of Zhao Fu. A formless energy spread out, and the ground immediately cracked open a 10-meter-wide crater. A figure lightly stepped on the Emperor-killing sword's hilt. It was a woman wearing a blood-red dress. She was tall and slim, had white skin, and had long black hair that reached her waist. She was extremely beautiful and had a pair of golden eyes, giving off a noble aura. This was most likely the sword spirit that the Emperor-killing sword had given birth to. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and had thought that it would be a golden dragon. The woman's eyes fell on Zhao Fu's body, and a trace of a smile appeared on her face as she called out, "Big sister." Zhao Fu felt quite startled and did not understand what was going on. The golden dragon within Zhao Fu's body also gave a trace of a smile, and Zhao Fu's body shined with golden light as the golden dragon flew out and turned into a graceful and noble woman wearing a golden palace dress. Seeing this scene, Zhao Fu looked quite confused. After being with the golden dragon for so long, Zhao Fu did not know that she could take human form. Moreover, the golden dragon was most likely hiding something from him. Before, Zhao Fu had thought that she was a fate dragon, but it seemed that this was not the case at all. "Big sister, I never thought that I would be able to see you again." The sword spirit walked over to the golden dragon and lightly hugged the golden dragon as she said happily. The golden dragon smiled as she said, "I never thought that I would be able to see you again. Fortunately, you preserved some of your remnant soul and were able to recover under the Emperor Star's massive power. You need to thank someone standing there." The sword spirit looked at Zhao Fu and gave a gentle smile as she said, "You must be my big sister's child." "I am. Wait, I think you're mistaken." Zhao Fu was flabbergasted and interrupted the sword spirit. What was wrong with him? The golden dragon's child must have misunderstood something. The golden dragon lightly laughed as he said, "He's not my child. I've fused with him as a fate dragon, and he now has the Heaven Murder Empire's bloodline." The sword spirit nodded and said, "No wonder his bloodline and aura are very similar to yours. Has the Heaven Murder Empire been restored?" The golden dragon smiled bitterly and shook his head. "The Heaven Murder Empire and the Qin Empire have merged, and the Qin Empire is the leader." The sword spirit frowned slightly and looked a little unhappy. Then, the golden dragon began to tell the sword spirit what happened after that, while also explaining to Zhao Fu. Back then, she had been chased by people and had almost been heavily injured. The Heaven Murder Empire had been at a critical juncture of destruction, so she could only use a secret technique to fuse with the Heaven Murder Empire's fate dragon to preserve a trace of the Heaven Murder Empire's fate and to preserve her own life. The golden dragon also told her about Zhao Fu. The sword spirit slightly frowned and looked at Zhao Fu in shock as she said, "He really has an early-stage divine bloodline? And he has 4 Emperor Stars?" Back then, the powerful Heaven Murder Empire only had a peak Emperor bloodline and had not broken through to a divine bloodline. She had never heard of anyone with 4 Emperor Stars. The golden dragon gave a pleased and proud smile as she said, "What do you think of the person I chose? He's not bad, right?" The sword spirit nodded in shock. She now remembered that she was a sword spirit and the sword spirit of the sword that Zhao Fu had forged. After the two women talked for a while, the golden dragon returned to Zhao Fu's body, and the sword spirit returned to the sword. Zhao Fu asked, "Is there anything else you're hiding from me?" The golden dragon was in a good mood as she smiled and said, "I'm not hiding anything from you. It's just that you didn't ask, so I didn't tell you." Zhao Fu felt quite powerless to ask. He had indeed never cared about such things before. So he asked, "What's your name then?" The golden dragon felt quite surprised that Zhao Fu had suddenly asked for her name, and she replied, "You can call me She, and you can call my little sister you." Zhao Fu nodded. At first, He had thought that the golden dragon was a fate dragon and did not have a gender. Fortunately, the golden dragon was a woman, or else he would not be able to accept doing it with a woman he loved in front of a man. The Emperor Killing Sword flew into Zhao Fu's hand and did not resist at all. Just then, the sword spirit had been controlling the Emperor Killing Sword, causing it to leave Zhao Fu's control. Now that the sword spirit obeyed Zhao Fu's commands, it naturally did not resist. What Zhao Fu was most curious about was the Emperor Killing Sword stats. After all, it was a king armament, and ordinary king armaments had powerful stats. Before, Zhao Fu had obtained a king armament shard and knew its stats, and that shard had become the Disaster King Ring. Even if it was not a king armament, it was the product of fusing 4 Emperor stars with the Emperor Killing Sword, and it had even caused abnormal signs in the Heaven Awakened world. This was enough to show how terrifying this sword was. Zhao Fu saw that the Emperor Killing Sword's name had not changed and was still at the very front. Why was this so? This was because there was a large group of names behind it, causing Zhao Fu to feel quite shocked. This was the first time he had seen something like this. Emperor Path Sword. An Emperor's sword that condenses massive amounts of Emperor's power. It contains the might of an Emperor and can shake the world, causing all creatures to submit and unify the world. Sword of the Way of the Sword. An ultimate sword that condenses the most powerful sword intent. It has the sharpness of splitting the heavens and the earth and can slash apart all things. Sword of Fate. An item that condenses a massive amount of fate. It has the same stats as a nation armament and can gather large amounts of fate. Sword of Killing. A sword that condenses boundless killing intent. It contains immense killing power, and the wielder will become a god of killing. Sword of Conquering. A holy sword that contains an intense aura of war. It can give the wielder immense power. Sword of Disaster. An inauspicious sword that contains an aura of disaster. It has the power to cause all sorts of natural and man-made disasters. Sword of Sickness. A sword that contains all sorts of diseases and plagues. It is one of the evil swords. Sword of Demonic Genius. A sword that contains demonic intent. It can cause abnormal signs in the heavens and earth and bring disaster to all creatures. Sword of Chaos. A sword that condenses the will of chaos. Once this sword is unleashed, the world will fall into chaos. It has the ability to confuse and affect people. Sword of the Human Master. A sword that contains the power of the human race's supreme Emperor Star. It can command countless humans. Whether it is an emperor, a subject, or a commoner, they will all become servants under this sword. Sword of the Devil Lord. A sword that contains the power of the devil race's supreme Emperor Star. It can command countless devils. Whether it is an emperor, a subject, or a commoner, they will all become servants under this sword. Sword of the Ghost Lord. A sword that contains the power of the death race's supreme Emperor Star. It can command countless devils. Whether it is an emperor, a subject, or a commoner, they will all become servants under this sword. Chapter 1351. It was most likely that no one had ever seen a sword with so many names. However, the Emperor Killing Sword's 12 names represented 12 terrifying powers. For example, the first sword was called Emperor's Path Sword. As long as one held this sword, even if one was not an emperor and was only a king or an ordinary person, one would be able to unleash powerful emperor's power. The second name was Sword of Swordpath. As long as one held this sword, one would be able to grasp an incredibly powerful sword intent. Even though one did not comprehend this sword intent by themselves, one could control it at will. The final name was Ghost Lord's Sword. The Ghost Lord was the master of all ghosts and monsters, and as long as one held this sword, it would become a ghost god weapon. Not only did it have powerful ghostly power, but it also had an innate suppressive effect on countless ghosts and monsters. There are no ghosts that did not fear it. From this, it could be seen that the Emperor Killing Sword's 12 names were not just for show. They represented 12 different attributes and were incredibly powerful. Zhao Fu was quite shocked. He had never seen such a terrifying sword before. It could be called a divine sword. Even legendary celestial swords would at most be powerful, but they would not have as many attributes as the Emperor Killing Sword. Moreover, all of the attributes were very powerful, and not a single one was weak. If the sword sect knew about this sword's attributes, they would be delirious with joy and might even go crazy. Even with all of their experience, they had never seen such a sword before. If they obtained this sword, they would definitely destroy it and use it as a supreme treasure of their sect. Even a number one sword in the Heaven Awakened world would pale in comparison to the Emperor Killing Sword. More importantly, the Emperor Killing Sword was a sword that could grow. It was the core item of the Emperor Killing Sword world, and as the Emperor Killing Sword world expanded, it would become more powerful. Just how terrifying would such a sword be once it matured? Those people were definitely right. This sword could bring disaster to all creatures and cause chaos in the world. The Emperor Killing Sword's grade was still Origin grade and had not changed at all. Zhao Fu looked at the sword's other attributes. Indeed, there were many other attributes, which were the following: obtain plus 1000% EXP, plus 500% achievement points, plus 500% chance of spawning S grade and above, plus 500% limit of special troops, plus 40% stats of all villages, plus 500% crop yield, 500% crop growth time, and plus 1000% resistance to natural disasters. These attributes were almost the same as the King Armament Shard's attributes, but they were much more powerful. EXP and achievement points were no longer of much use to Zhao Fu. The talent respawn and special soldiers were a little useful, but what surprised Zhao Fu the most was the production attribute. Now, almost all of the city's production stats had disappeared, while the Emperor Killing Sword still had production stats. This meant that it could still reduce production time and increase production. The Emperor Killing Sword also had attributes, which were similar to general armaments. General armaments had 6 attributes: Emperor Chi Condensation, Emperor's Light, Emperor's Courage, Emperor's Armament, Emperor's Power, and the 4 Emperor's Armaments. Its attributes and description were the same as other general armaments, but there were 2 important points. The first was Emperor Chi Condensation, which could gather the power of 1 billion soldiers and form a massive battle beast. The second was the general armament's 6th attribute, Emperor's Armament. If Zhao Fu used this, the 4 Emperor Stars' power could be added to ordinary soldiers. Even though the Emperor Stars' power would not be much, considering how terrifying Zhao Fu's Emperor Stars were, even a few traces would be able to greatly strengthen ordinary soldiers. These were all attributes that a king armament should have, and there was another attribute, which was the sword domain. Now, the Emperor Killing Sword could unleash a barrier that could cover an entire world. This barrier was naturally incredibly powerful, and it was formed from 12 types of sword energy. It could be said that if Zhao Fu unleashed it, ordinary people would not be able to break through it. At the same time, these were only the Emperor Killing Sword's basic attributes, and they would continue to increase in the future as the Emperor Killing Sword world expanded. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu immediately entered the Emperor Killing Sword world. The changes were most likely not small. After entering, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. The sky was still blue and did not have a single cloud. There were only 4 resplendent stars in the sky: blood red, violet, gold, and gray. Even though they gave off different starlight, they did not dye the sky any different colors. Wind blew across the grass, and the berserk and terrifying Killing Sword intent within the Emperor Killing Sword world had become much weaker. However, it had gained a lot of Emperor's Dao power. Zhao Fu looked at Sword Obsession and found that it now had a few traces of Emperor's Dao power. The other effects were not too great, and Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. After returning to the outside world, Zhao Fu smiled as he looked at the Emperor Killing Sword before carefully putting it away. Zhao Fu understood how powerful this sword's attributes were, so it would be best to use it less in the future in case others try to pry into it. However, Zhao Fu was not worried that others would steal it, because even if this sword was stolen, he would not be able to use it. After all, only he could use the Emperor Killing Sword, and the Sword Spirit could not change that. The Sword Spirit could control the Emperor Killing Sword, But the true control of the Emperor Killing Sword was still with Zhao Fu. After all, the Emperor Killing Sword was a sword of killing heart that Zhao Fu had forged, and Zhao Fu controlled the Emperor Killing Sword world. If the sword spirit had resisted before, Zhao Fu would have been able to forcefully suppress it. However, the sword spirit had only been sent in and was not the sword's spirit body, so it could not completely control the sword. Moreover, now that Zhao Fu had fused the power of his 4 fate stars into the Emperor Killing Sword, he did not have to worry about the Emperor Killing Sword suffering backlash. Even if the Emperor Killing Sword was evil, dark, or destructive in the future, it would not be able to harm Zhao Fu. If anyone else obtained this sword, they would definitely suffer all sorts of backlash and would not be able to defend against it. Even if they had powerful fate, it would not be enough, as the sword energy could seep into fate. Congratulations, Your Majesty. You have obtained such a divine weapon. The generals came up and said with smiles. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded before returning to Qin City. Not too long after, the sky brightened, and before there was any news from Zhao Fu, a large number of troublesome things had started to happen. Zhao Fu knew what was going on and could not help but feel that the heavenly domain boundary was able to weaken all abnormal signs, which would not have caused such a commotion. The first to come to Qin City were the ambassadors from the surrounding regions. They all wanted to know what had happened in Qin City and why the 4 stars in the sky had such immense power. Chapter 1352. Zhao Fu thought about it and released the news that the Qin Empire had an expert helping them, and that expert had used a heaven-defying method to change fate and protect the Qin Empire. The 4 stars from before were just astronomical phenomena. This was more believable than not knowing anything, but only a small portion of people believed it. Most people did not believe it, as no one would announce such a big matter. They had come to see if there were any obvious changes in the Qin Empire. If there were, they would have to be careful and prepare a plan to deal with the Qin Empire. The surrounding factions were easier to deal with, as the Qin Empire was one of the most powerful factions here. Even if ordinary factions were not convinced, they would not dare to say anything. What worried Zhao Fu was the royal emissaries, as they were not easy to deal with. If something went wrong and other kingdoms attacked, the Qin Empire would be doomed. Zhao Fu did not want this to happen. Facing these people, they would not believe anything that Zhao Fu said, unless he told them the truth. However, this was almost impossible, and it would not be good to face them. As such, Zhao Fu could only drag things out. He ordered people to properly entertain the emissaries and did not answer any questions. He did not want to anger the other side, and he acted as if peace was the best way to make money. After the storm passed, things would be much easier to deal with. The 4 factions were quite dissatisfied with this, and some even wanted to attack the Qin Empire. However, they were hundreds of worlds away from the Qin Empire, and even with teleportation, it would not be an easy thing to do. Now, the Qin Empire had 4 worlds, and even though it did not have a strong foundation, it was not a force that anyone could bully. If they wanted to destroy it, they would have to pay a price. More importantly, many kingdom factions valued him, and if they sent troops to attack him, he would have to go to a kingdom. In the end, they would not be able to gain anything, and they might even suffer heavy losses and have a dangerous enemy. After a few days, the commotion caused by this incident gradually calmed down. Zhao Fu also heaved a sigh of relief. He had been living on tenterhooks. However, something that surprised Zhao Fu happened. Not only did the Greenwood Royal Kingdom express that they were willing to marry Princess Qingmu to Qin, but the Winecloud dynasty also wanted to marry Jiu Shaoyan Qin. The ancient god sect also wanted Gu Qingyue to come and see if Qin's imperial prince was suitable. This caused countless people to be incomparably shocked. Why did the powers of the 3 great kingdoms favor Zhao Fu so much that they were willing to pay such a price and sacrifice the most noble women of their forces? What shocked them even more was that the Heavenly Music sect also intended to choose Qin's imperial prince as In Ruoshi's husband. Everyone was sent into an uproar, and many people cried out in pain. They had never thought that the Heavenly Music sect would be like this. It was one of the top factions in the ancient STEM domain, and Ruoshi was the #1 beauty in the ancient STEM domain. Because she was wearing a veil, not many people had seen her appearance. Now that Zhao Fu's name had spread far and wide, everyone felt quite curious as to why the large factions would do such a thing. Zhao Fu felt quite confused, but he quickly thought of something and was greatly shocked. Zhao Fu remembered that during the ancient STEM banquet, he had summoned 3 Emperor stars, and everyone in the inner regions of the ancient STEM domain had seen them. If an Emperor star appeared again, they would definitely know. Immediately, Zhao Fu felt cold sweat run down his body and felt that a disaster was about to befall Qin. He felt that the royal kingdoms would attack in the next moment. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and immediately sent out countless intelligence personnel to gather information. The results made Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. The royal kingdoms did not seem to have any intentions of mobilizing their forces. Could it be that his identity hadn't been exposed? Zhao Fu felt quite confused, but according to the reports, the royal kingdoms had sent people to investigate Zhao Fu. Right now, they only suspected that Qin was related to that mysterious emperor and did not confirm that Zhao Fu was that mysterious emperor. This time, 4 emperor stars had descended, which was different from the 3 emperor stars from before. Moreover, they had been summoned while fusing a king armament, so the ripples were not as powerful as when the emperor stars had been awakened. As such, not many people in the inner regions of the ancient STEM domain had sensed it. The strongest ripples were when the emperor-killing sword devoured the fate of the heavens and earth, which was what alerted them. Moreover, in terms of aura, Zhao Fu's aura was different from before. Now, Zhao Fu had the aura of a divine bloodline, and not an emperor's aura. Zhao Fu's identity most likely had not been exposed, or else the ancient sword sect, Bear Mountain Kingdom, and Netherine Dynasty would have directly attacked. At the same time, Zhao Fu knew that the heavenly music sect's news of Ruoshi marrying to Qin was false, and he had no idea who had spread this. However, the other 3 factions had wanted to marry their daughters to Qin, and they most likely valued Qin's potential. They felt that for Qin to be able to cause such ripples, he must have some terrifying hidden abilities. They were almost certain that the Qin Empire would become a royal kingdom. Zhao Fu felt much more at ease. However, after thinking about it, if the other royal kingdoms really attacked, Great Qin would not be doomed. Zhao Fu could ask the higher beings he knew for help, and with their strength, they would be able to protect Great Qin. However, with Zhao Fu's personality and the fact that he was Qin's emperor, he would not easily ask someone for help. However, if he could protect the Qin Empire and put down some of his dignity for Qin's residents, Zhao Fu would be able to do so. Facing the intentions of the 3 royal kingdoms, Zhao Fu could only tactfully gather them. He did not want to maintain his mysterious appearance, and he planned to make everything public and cut himself off from that mysterious emperor. Of course, he had to conceal everything, so Zhao Fu spent a great price to obtain an item that could change one's appearance. In actuality, there were many things in the Heaven Awakened world that could change one's appearance, but they were easily seen through, so Zhao Fu had not used them. However, this time, he had obtained an appearance-changing divine liquid that could change one's appearance by peeling off thousands of people's faces. It was quite effective and difficult to see through. Zhao Fu used the appearance-changing divine liquid to make himself look incredibly ordinary, as only by being ordinary would he not draw too much attention. Moreover, Zhao Fu personally received the ambassadors, and the ambassadors all looked quite disappointed. They had never thought that Great Qin's legatee, who was incredibly famous and mysterious, would have such an ordinary-looking appearance. No wonder he wore a mask. Without the mask, his incredibly ordinary face did not look mysterious at all, nor did he have any sort of aura. He looked just like an ordinary person. Following this, the ambassadors spread the news, causing the countless young women who were curious about Zhao Fu to feel greatly disappointed. The peerlessly handsome man they had expected did not appear, and he was just an ordinary person. After hearing about this, Princess Qingmu ran over to Qin and mocked Zhao Fu a few times, saying that she had taken revenge before feeling quite pleased. Zhao Fu felt quite speechless and did not mind too much. He obediently stayed in Qin and did not want to make any more trouble. He would wait for things to settle down. Chapter 1353. This was mainly because of the war god's fury. The core of the war god's fury required a very powerful spirit plant to stabilize the ground, strengthen its defenses, and give the war god's fury powerful life force. Back then, Zhao Fu did not know if the celestial peach could be planted. Now that it could be planted, if it became one of the core items of the war god's fury, it would be able to unleash 10 or so times more power than an ordinary war god's fury. Zhao Fu had already chosen a region to be the core of the war god's fury, and he carefully transplanted the celestial peach there. Right now, the celestial peach had only grown a small green bud, and it would take a long time for it to grow into a large tree. If it became the core of the war god's fury, it would be able to absorb even more power and grow. There were also the 3 core items of the war god's fury, which were the 10,000 gravity origin stone, the god ray stone, and the powerful spirit plant. With them, Zhao Fu could start constructing the war god's fury. Zhao Fu gathered all of the talisman masters in Qin City and ordered them to carve out a magic formation that covered an entire region. Luckily, Qin City had a large population and many talisman masters, or else it would take them a long time to carve out such a large magic formation. A few days later, the massive magic formation was completed. Zhao Fu came to the center of the magic formation, where a stone platform had been constructed and 24 talisman pillars had been erected. They surrounded the core of the magic formation, helping to control it and also protecting it. The first step was to place the most important 10,000 gravity origin stone. Zhao Fu carefully took out the 10,000 gravity origin stone and pressed it into the magic formation. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the magic formation that covered the entire region gave off light and appeared on the ground. A formless energy seeped into the ground, causing the ground to violently tremble. The countless beasts, birds, and insects living here sensed this natural disaster and became incredibly terrified. They ran in all directions, forming small beast tides that gave off powerful auras. Rumble. The ground in this region started to rise, and the ground at the boundary collapsed, giving off massive sounds as a massive crack appeared. The ground continuously rose, giving off a majestic aura that shook the surroundings. It gradually rose higher and higher until it left the ground and flew into the air. The people in the surrounding regions all looked incredibly shocked as they looked at the massive object in the sky. Even from far away, they could feel the pressure and shock coming from it. Now, a floating island that was 100,000 miles wide and tens of thousands of meters thick had appeared. With such a massive body, if it charged over, billions of people would be smashed into meat paste. It was simply too powerful. The 10,000 gravity origin stone was gravity, and its main function was to make the ground rise into the air. However, right now, the region was only made up of ordinary soil, and after being attacked, it would easily scatter. Even though the region was quite big, it would not be able to withstand many attacks. This was especially so under the attack of a nation armament, and it would easily scatter. At this time, the spirit herb and the god ray stone were needed. The second step was for Zhao Fu to place the god ray stone. Boom! A white pillar of light shot into the sky, causing the weather to change. Countless white ripples of light spread out on the ground with the pillar of light at the center. The white light seeped into every corner of the region, causing the region floating in the air to shine with white light. Now, every part of the region had divine power, and its defenses were 10 or so times stronger than before. Moreover, the region's movement and flying abilities were greatly increased. Finally, Zhao Fu carefully transplanted the celestial peach tree over. The celestial peach tree was indeed a rare spirit item. As soon as it was planted, a powerful aura of life spread out, and the entire region seemed to come to life. Not only did its defenses become stronger, but also became more agile. All of its stats were greatly increased, and it gave off a massive, formless aura. Zhao Fu looked at the war god's fury and satisfaction and gave a pleased smile. However, because it was still lacking a few things, it could not be used in battle yet. However, when it was used, it would not disappoint Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu looked forward to that day. Now, the war god's fury had another benefit, which was that it could gather heaven and earth spirit chi, and it could gather large amounts of heaven and earth spirit chi. This would allow the celestial peach tree to quickly grow, and the faster it grew, the more life force it would have, making the war god's fury more powerful. After returning to Qin, Zhao Fu was worried that the ancient sword sect might discover his identity at any time, as well as the unknown dangers in the future. Zhao Fu wanted to quickly level up to a royal kingdom, and he was only 6 worlds away. Zhao Fu wanted to go to the Charm Devil world to see if there were any factions there to develop, or else he would be wasting the Goreo kingdom. If he developed well, he might be able to easily devour the Charm Devil world. Even though the Charm Devil race was quite licentious, they had powerful battle strength. If he could devour them, his strength would greatly increase. At the same time, Zhao Fu received news that the Devil Horn Empire had conquered the 2 worlds on the left and right, and it intended to attack the mermaid world next to the Lantong world. The mermaids were water creatures and used water as a barrier. They did not seem to be in much danger, but if they could deal with the problem of water, the mermaid world would be in danger. After all, the mermaid's battle strength was only average. If the Devil Horn Empire devoured the mermaid world, it would be able to spy on the elf world below and devour the elf world. If it wasn't for Great Qin defending the 3 continents of the 3 worlds, the Devil Horn Empire would have long since obtained the 3 worlds, and no other worlds would dare to compete with it. If it obtained 3 worlds, it would have 6 worlds. Zhao Fu wanted to develop in that direction and restrict the Devil Horn Empire's development. Apart from the Charm Devil world, Zhao Fu had 2 other choices. The first was to expand to the left. To the left of the Spirit Light world was the Corpse Paul world, which was also a death race. Back then, in order to steal the Primogenitor statue, he had fought with the Corpse Paul world's legatee. Zhao Fu did not know much about the Corpse Paul world for now. The second choice was the world next to the Fish Scale world. Zhao Fu had not explored it yet, so he did not know much about it. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to first investigate the worlds on the left and right. They were both new worlds and would be easier to deal with. They were Qin Lian's main targets. Zhao Fu chose the Corpse Paul world because there was enmity between them. Zhao Fu would naturally destroy it first, and the death race was not easy to deal with. With their death attribute, they were much more powerful than ordinary humans. Chapter 1354. Zhao Fu did not use the golden doors, as that would be too big of a commotion. Zhao Fu used the small transboundary magic formation from before to come to the Corpse Paul world. As a death race world, there was Inchi everywhere, and there were all sorts of strange-looking plants. The sky was gray and hazy, and the world was filled with an eerie coldness. There seemed to be no sound, and it felt deathly silent. Suddenly coming to a world like this made people feel quite afraid, and that eerie feeling made their hair stand on end. Zhao Fu had come to the boundary, so there most likely would not be many people. He saw a few wild beasts, which all looked quite strange-looking. This was because there was a gray-white lump of mud on each of the wild beasts' foreheads. Zhao Fu did not know what it was, so after killing a few wild beasts, he took the mud. He found that it was incredibly cold and gave off powerful yin qi. It was quite soft and could be molded into all sorts of shapes, but could not be torn apart or destroyed. Zhao Fu did not know what it was used for. Soon, Zhao Fu found a village and found out what this mud could do. This mud was actually quite soluble in water, and as long as it was placed in a basin and stirred a bit, it would melt. Following this, the people would soak bandages in it. The bandages quickly absorbed the yin qi from the mud, and the ordinary bandages became yin weapons. Not only could they become as tough as metal, but they could also be freely controlled, making them look quite amazing. The residents here all had one or a few bandages wrapped around their bodies. The more bandages they wore, the more bandages they could control, the more powerful they were. No wonder Sure Xiao was covered in bandages when he first saw her. Because this was a small village in the wilderness, Zhao Fu did not have to be too cautious. He came to the village and gave off a massive aura, causing the entire village to fall into deathly silence. Countless people looked terrified. They had never felt such a massive aura before, and they did not dare to resist at all. All of you, come out and gather at the center of the village, or else I'll kill you all. As soon as Zhao Fu's cold voice sounded out, countless people hurriedly ran out of the village. They did not dare to hesitate because that power was too terrifying. They did not even have the courage to refuse that person's orders. Zhao Fu stood at the center of the village and looked at the people gathered in front of him. They all knelt on the ground in fear, their heads tightly lowered and their bodies slightly trembled. It was good to have great power, as one could dominate others. The weak could only live in fear and humility. The leader of the group was a large man with thick eyebrows, who was most likely the village chief. Beside him was a woman with disheveled clothes that revealed half of her chest. She was holding a baby in her arms, and it seemed that she had just been feeding the baby. Zhao Fu glanced at the baby, and the man with thick eyebrows thought that Zhao Fu was looking at his wife. His wife was not bad, and she was the most beautiful woman in the village. Now, she was even showing some of her skin, which aroused the interest of that terrifying person. But for the safety of the entire village, the thick-browed man could only shout, "Hurry up and serve the Lord." The woman was so afraid that she did not resist, and she got up and walked toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu directly cut them off. Even though the woman was the most beautiful woman in the village, to Zhao Fu's eyes, she was incredibly ordinary, so Zhao Fu naturally did not have any interest in her. "Tell me what I want, and I'll let you off. Otherwise, I'll kill your entire village." The terrified villagers all nodded. Following this, Zhao Fu obtained the information he wanted and flew towards the nearest city. This was just a small village in the wilderness, so he naturally did not know much. If it was a village next to a city, even though they would know a bit more, in order to not reveal their identities, Zhao Fu would kill everyone in the village to ensure that their identities would not be revealed. After coming to a city, Zhao Fu went through a teleportation channel and went to an even larger city. Now, Zhao Fu started to obtain general information about the Corpse Paul world. He was quite surprised to find that the Corpse Paul world's 7 continents had formed 7 large factions. These factions were not allied together, but had unified the continents. Sure Zhao's faction occupied the central continent, while the other 6 legatees each occupied a continent and had established kingdoms. These 7 people were all incredibly powerful, or else they would not have formed such a situation. Back then, the spirit light world had been scattered and had not been unified yet. The 7 of them had the most authority and status in the Corpse Paul world, and they were the most powerful. They were respected and worshipped by countless people in the world and controlled the fate of the Corpse Paul world. At the same time, they had connections to the outside world and knew about what had happened in the spirit light world and the outside world. As such, they could only ally together, or else they would not have any hope of resisting the ferocious Qin. Now that he knew about the Corpse Paul world situation, Zhao Fu became quite serious. Now that the 7 continents were unified, they were many times more powerful than when they were scattered, and it would be much more difficult to deal with them. Zhao Fu continued to gather information and wanted to know about the Corpse Paul world's fighting style. Each world had its own culture, and their fighting style was quite different as well. The people in the Corpse Paul world rarely used ores as materials. Perhaps it was because of the scarcity of ores, but they liked to use materials from wild beasts. Apart from that, they also used bandages. Their fighting style was quite special, and almost everyone could fight in close combat and from a distance. Sure Xiao and the others gathered together to discuss Qin's situation. Now that the spirit light world had been destroyed, they would naturally be next. It was as if there was a haze covering the Corpse Paul world. Facing the terrifying pressure that Qin gave off, they could not sit still and were worried that Qin would attack at any moment. Moreover, only the higher-ups like them knew about this, and ordinary people did not know about it. That was why the corpse pall world was so peaceful. Even though the 7 continents had been unified and had entered a period of peace and prosperity, the ordinary people did not have much to worry about. However, if they knew how terrifying and threatening Qin was, they would not be like this. The corpse pall world would have long since fallen into chaos, and everyone would have fallen into the terror that Qin gave them. Sure, Xiao and Zhao Fu had met before when they had fought over the primogenitor statue. Even though they had not met again, there was enmity between them, as there had been an intense battle when they had fought over the primogenitor statue. Even though they knew that Prince Qin was not simple, they had never thought that he would be so terrifying. The corpse pall world's 7 people had each unified a continent, and it was something to be proud of. Even the outside worlds had not done this yet. Chapter 1355. Now, the 7 of them did not know what to do. Even though they had contacted the Alliance, they could not rely on the Alliance's people. With how cowardly they were, they would be killed by the 2 empires sooner or later. They had to face Qin's threat by themselves, and they could only face it in the corpse pall world. No one could truly help them. However, even facing the ferocious Qin, the corpse pall world would not give up without a fight. They started to prepare for the final battle with Qin. In fact, they even used all sorts of forbidden techniques and sinister methods. As long as they could defeat Qin, they would do anything. For example, they started to collect all sorts of bee soil and babies born during the hour. All of this was done in secret because they were afraid that Qin's intelligence agents would find out about it. Now that they had the ability to cross worlds, Qin definitely had it as well. They did not know that Qin's emperor was already in the corpse pall world. If they knew, they would be incredibly delighted, and they would be able to gather all of their forces to kill Qin's legatee. Once Qin's legatee died, the Qin Empire would most likely collapse, and the corpse pall world's crisis would be resolved. They knew that Qin's legatee was very powerful and that his nation armament could gather the power of 4 worlds. However, this was only a portion of the 4 worlds' power and not all of the 4 worlds' power. If they gathered 4 or 5 billion soldiers and used various methods, they would be able to kill Zhao Fu. In terms of individual strength, none of them would be a match for Zhao Fu. However, if they used the power of an entire world, they would definitely be able to defeat Zhao Fu. However, gathering such a large force was not a simple matter. By the time they finished gathering, Zhao Fu would have long since run away. After all, Zhao Fu was not an idiot. Sure, Xiao and the others continuously prepared ways to resist Qin, and Zhao Fu also gathered information about the corpse pall world, making great gains. He found out about the legatees of the 7 major factions and their various abilities. Moreover, their battle methods were quite special. They would usually use various bone weapons to attack or defend. Bandages were their secondary weapons, and they could also attack and defend. The main and secondary weapons could also attack at the same time. This was quite troublesome. It was like 2 against 1. Moreover, they were of the same cultivation and had great teamwork. Facing such an enemy, ordinary people would lose, and the corpse pall world could still resist. Of course, this method consumed a lot of energy. Although the bandage had become an artifact and was as hard as steel, it was still vulnerable to fire. This was also the most important point. Qin could use fire to restrain the corpse pall world and weaken its power. He could even use this to conquer the corpse pall world. Apart from this, Zhao Fu had also obtained some secret information that he couldn't verify. It was said that the 7 legatees controlled an underworld treasure trove, which contained countless treasures, coins, Qi materials, and could even enter the underworld. The 7 legatees relied on the underworld treasure trove to become so powerful, or else they would not have been able to unify the underworld. Zhao Fu did not know if this was true or not, but he would find out after conquering the corpse pall world. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to Qin City and ordered people to prepare for the attack on the corpse pall world. Right now, Qin's main focus was to digest the spirit light world. He was only making preparations, and it would be some time before he officially attacked the corpse pall world. After looking through the corpse pall world, Zhao Fu planned to head to the world next to the fish scale world, but something big happened. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a massive aura fearlessly spread out, sending out wild gales and causing countless people to feel terror. Even in the nearby world, Zhao Fu could sense this terrifying might descending. This was an Emperor Heaven Realm cultivator, the most powerful expert in the ancient STEM domain. Why had he suddenly appeared here and acted so fearlessly and domineeringly, not putting anyone in his eyes at all? People here, listen up. This world belongs to the Aeolian Empire. Anyone who dares to spy on it will be killed without mercy, and anyone who dares to humiliate it will have their entire world destroyed. Apart from this Emperor Heaven Realm expert, 3 billion stage 3 soldiers also appeared, instantly taking down one of the Charmed Devil World's continents. This was because the world below the Charmed Devil World was the world next to the Fish Scale World. The world that this expert was talking about was this world. Even though there were only 3 billion soldiers in that world, they were all stage 3 soldiers, which were comparable to 30 billion stage 1 soldiers. The continent was unable to resist at all and was instantly destroyed. Moreover, they were incredibly cruel and cold-blooded. After conquering it, they slaughtered everyone, regardless of gender or age. In just a few days, the 3 billion soldiers had slaughtered almost everyone in the continent. The continent was covered with corpses and blood flowed like rivers. The ground was dyed red, and the stench of blood was incredibly pungent. There was not a single charmed devil alive, only countless corpses. Fortunately, some of the charmed devils had run quickly and escaped to other continents, or else the entire continent would have been slaughtered without a single survivor. High-grade soldiers completely suppressed lower-grade soldiers, and they were slaughtered in an instant. The entire charmed devil world fell into panic because facing these 3 billion soldiers, they could not resist at all. If the Aeolian Empire's people really wanted to destroy them, the charmed devil world would immediately disappear from a map without any hope. This was the strength of an inner-region royal kingdom. Luckily, the Aeolian Empire seemed to have some misgivings and did not go too far, or else there would have been a bloodbath. The appearance of the Aeolian Empire in such a bloody and domineering manner shook the entire region, and the various worlds looked incredibly terrified. They could not even defend against a royal kingdom in the ancient STEM domain, and now that a true royal kingdom from the inner regions had come, they would be crushed like ants. Now, they all looked incredibly nervous and gathered their forces, afraid that the Aeolian Empire would do something. After hearing about this, the people from the inner regions of the ancient STEM domain sent people over. Even though they were both royal kingdoms, they were on completely different levels. They deeply feared the Aeolian Empire and wanted to know why it had come here. They also wanted to know why it was here, as they were worried that the Aeolian Empire would do something to them. Just a single royal kingdom from the inner regions of the ancient STEM domain had caused such a massive storm in the ancient STEM domain. If people from the Heaven domain came, it would be unimaginable. The difference in power levels was simply too great. Chapter 1356. Zhao Fu looked quite serious. Such a massive faction had suddenly descended, completely ruining Qin's plans and greatly threatening Qin's safety. At the same time, Zhao Fu felt quite curious about what was in that world, or what had happened for such a powerful kingdom to descend. Qin had never explored that world before, and now, that world was filled with mysteries. Luckily, the fish scale world next to it had been conquered by Qin, and it was protected by the Heaven domain boundary. Zhao Fu could enter that world through the fish scale world. The matter with the Aeolian Empire had become a very dangerous matter, and Zhao Fu immediately got up and planned to head to that world. However, he found that he could not enter that world at all, as the transboundary magic formations could not enter that world. It was as if there was some kind of power protecting that world, preventing anyone from spying on it. Even powerful transboundary magic formations could not do anything. However, Zhao Fu had other methods, which were Mozaks, and Yuling Mozaks had the power to nullify all power, and Yuling had the power to destroy all barriers. If they worked together, They should be able to open the barrier. Soon, the two of them arrived and followed Zhao Fu's orders to destroy the barrier. Mozax unleashed his nothingness domain and started to corrode the barrier's power. Yuling stood within the nothingness domain and placed his little hand on the barrier, causing a formless wave of light to spread out. The barrier gradually twisted and formed a vortex. Zhao Fu was delighted. It had worked. With Mozax and Yuling working together, almost no barrier could stop them. However, Zhao Fu was disappointed. The barrier repaired too quickly, and there were many restrictions on powerful people. Zhao Fu could not enter, and only Mozax and Yuling could enter. In the end, Zhao Fu had no choice but to let the two of them enter to obtain information. He gave them the highest grade nothingness cloaks to protect themselves, and he warned them to be careful and to retreat if anything was off. Yuling was still a child, and Mozax was in charge. The two of them quickly entered the vortex. Zhao Fu did not wait in place, because he did not know when they would come out. He hoped that they would bring back good news. Afterwards, Zhao Fu returned to Qin and planned to go to the Charmed Devil world to take a look. Qin had originally wanted to conquer that world, but now it seemed impossible because the Aeolian Empire was there, so it was impossible for Qin to conquer the Aeolian Empire. Right now, the people of the Charmed Devil world were not having a good time either. Almost all of them were on tenterhooks. When the Aeolian Empire took action, there was no movement at all. They were cold and merciless, directly slaughtering everyone. This made it so that many Charmed Devils did not dare to stay in the Charmed Devil world. Qin of the Succubus world had the Guerrero kingdom as a chess piece. Zhao Fu planned to go there and see the situation before making a detailed plan. Zhao Fu sat on the throne as the Guerrero kingdom's queen, and Queen Ludli served Zhao Fu. There was also a group of bewitching women who looked incredibly envious and thirsty as they waited. They were the former Charmed Devil King's concubines, and there were also the wives and daughters of some ministers. With their lewd natures, serving Zhao Fu was equivalent to enjoying themselves. Only the queen and queen had the qualifications to do so. Ordinary concubines like them could only wait. Zhao Fu felt quite helpless and wanted to come and see the situation. However, Mei Xianggu and Xiangli could not take it anymore. "Good husband, you've finally come. You don't know how much we've missed you." Mei Xianggu, the Guerrero kingdom's most vicious queen, said bitterly as she served Zhao Fu. "That's right. Husband, we've missed you every day and night. Today, you have to properly play with our bodies," the former queen of the Guerrero kingdom said flirtatiously. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and said, "I'll satisfy you later. Now that the Aeolian Empire has descended, what is the situation like in the Charmed Devil world? How are you going to deal with it?" Xiangli did not dare to be interested in this matter and wholeheartedly served Zhao Fu. Mei Xianggu was more far-sighted and sighed as she said, "Now that the Aeolian Empire is a dangerous existence in the Charmed Devil world, many people are preparing to relocate their kingdoms at any time. We don't know why the Aeolian Empire has come here, and no one knows what the Aeolian Empire's next step will be. Now that this place is so dangerous, many people don't dare to stay here because they can die at any moment. If the Aeolian Empire wants to destroy the Charmed Devil world, good husband, we plan to rely on you. Only you can protect us. Also, good husband, I'll tell you a piece of good news. However, you have to satisfy me first, or else I won't tell you." Looking at how lewd and seductive she was, Zhao Fu could not hold back and started to do it with her. The women waiting by the side also happily went over. They could finally experience that sort of pleasure again. Afterwards, Zhao Fu hugged the panting Mei Xianggu and asked, "Can you tell me what happened now?" Mei Xianggu's face was red as she said enticingly, "One of the rulers of our Charmed Devil world's continents wants to find a man who can conquer her and has a large faction. She wants to protect her continent and prepare a path of retreat for the future. Husband, with your power, you'll definitely be able to subdue her. I heard that the ruler of that continent is still a virgin, so if you can subdue her, you'll be able to obtain a continent. Many people have already hurried over, so you need to act quickly. Perhaps the Devil Horn Empire's king has also gone." Zhao Fu rolled his eyes. Why didn't you say so earlier? Mei Xianggu lightly snorted. If I had told you earlier, I wouldn't have been as comfortable as I am now. All right, husband, I'll help you put on your clothes and bring you somewhere. We should be able to make it in time. After all, that news hasn't spread yet. Zhao Fu nodded, and the two of them headed towards the continent. A bunch of trash. You dare to compete with this king? A cold harumph sounded out as the purple-clothed and handsome-looking Yao Ming appeared in the sky. A massive aura spread out and swept towards the charmed devilman. Feeling this terrifying aura, countless people looked terrified and quickly retreated, not daring to stay. They were not a match for Yao Ming at all. A woman flew into the sky. She was dressed in armor and had short, red hair. She had a fiery figure and an androgynous appearance. She was extremely handsome and gave off a valiant aura. If it wasn't for her fiery figure, most people would have thought that she was a handsome young man. You're the Devil Horn Empire's king? The woman was the ruler of that continent, and she was called Mei Qinggu. She looked at Yao Ming in delight. There were 4 powerful factions here: the Qin Empire, the Devil Horn Empire, the Alliance, and the Aeolian Empire. Chapter 1357. She had wanted to obtain the support of a large faction to strengthen her continent. If she could not defend against the Aeolian Empire, she could retreat to their side. The Devil Horn Empire was incredibly powerful and had 3 worlds and 9 continents. It would be of great help to her. Sensing the gazes of fear and worship, Yao Ming proudly smiled and said, "That's right. This king is the Devil Horn Empire's most powerful king. This king can make you a concubine and give you all sorts of help." Mei Qinggu smiled and cupped her hands as she said, "Many thanks. The Devil Horn Empire's king." If it was someone else, Mei Qinggu would not have been so courteous. However, the other party was the Devil Horn Empire's king, so she had to be courteous and respectful. Yao Ming felt quite happy. He had been able to obtain a continent so easily. So he said, "You can come back with this king. This king will immediately make you a concubine and send troops to defend the continent." Mei Qinggu lightly laughed as she said, "That's naturally not a problem. However, according to the charm race's customs, not only do you have to defeat me in terms of martial power, but you also have to conquer me in terms of body. With your strength, you're definitely above me. So, you just need to conquer me in terms of body. This is my first time as well. To be able to give me such a powerful and famous man like you is a joyous matter. Let's not waste any words. Come and do me." As a woman from the charm race, she was quite bold in this aspect and did not feel any shame. Mei Qinggu took off her armor and wanted Yao Ming to do her in front of everyone and conquer her body with brute force. Yao Ming gave a confident smile. He was from the devil race and was quite powerful in that aspect, so he naturally had the confidence and ability to conquer this woman in front of him. As for doing Mei Qinggu in front of everyone, perhaps he did not want to do it in front of everyone. However, after playing with his concubine and eating his own little brother, he did not mind at all. In fact, he felt a strange sense of excitement and pleasure. Hearing that the two of them were going to do it in front of everyone, regardless of whether they were men or women, looked quite excited and looked quite expectant. Their bodies also reacted. Mei Qinggu had taken off most of her clothes, and she was only wearing a red silk dress. Her faintly discernible figure was incredibly alluring. Yao Ming recklessly laughed and flew towards Mei Qinggu, preparing to hug her and do her in front of everyone. Boom! An even more powerful aura exploded out, and everyone in the surroundings felt a massive might. No matter if it was their bodies or bloodlines, they all felt terror, and their bodies instinctively trembled. Zhao Fu brought Mei Xianggu and powerfully descended. Seeing Zhao Fu arrive, Yao Ming immediately had a bad feeling and wanted to take Mei Qinggu away. That way, he would be able to obtain a continent. Clang! A sword light containing shocking power ferociously slashed towards Yao Ming. Yao Ming was given a big fright and slashed out with his saber, blocking that sword light, but he was forced back a few steps. This caused Yao Ming's expression to fall. Zhao Fu's power had increased by quite a bit. However, Yao Ming would not admit defeat so easily. A violet aura flame burst forth from his body as a massive aura spread out. Yao Ming prepared to fight with Zhao Fu. Wait, Mei Qinggu called out before looking at Zhao Fu in shock and asking, "Are you the emperor of the Qin Empire?" Zhao Fu hugged the mature and flirtatious Mei Xianggu and smiled as he nodded. Hearing Zhao Fu's reply, Mei Qinggu turned to look at Yao Ming and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Devil Horn Empire's emperor. This Qin Empire's emperor is more suitable for me than you, and you're most likely not a match for him. Also, the aura he gives off is far more noble than yours. It's also extremely attractive to me. Right now, my body is actually reacting strongly, and I really want him to F***CK me. You didn't give me this feeling, so you should have lost." Or, Yao Ming had already considered Mei Qinggu to be his woman, and hearing her say those words, he felt incredibly furious. His face became ashen as he slashed out with his saber and ferociously attacked Mei Qinggu. Mei Qinggu's expression fell, and she dodged to the side. She understood that she was not a match for Yao Ming. By now, Zhao Fu had also joined the battle and faced off against Yao Ming. A massive wind blew, causing countless people to flee in terror. In the end, Yao Ming was still able to escape. It was not only because Zhao Fu was stronger than him, but also because this was Mei Qinggu's territory and her army was here. Neither side could use their nation armaments here because they were wary of the Emperor Heaven Realm experts here. If they made too much of a ruckus, it was possible that the three of them would be killed by the Emperor Heaven Realm experts. "Thank you for your help, Emperor Qin. I'm yours now," Mei Qinggu said as she smiled. If it wasn't for Zhao Fu being satisfied, it would have been very difficult for her to repel Yao Ming. However, even if Zhao Fu had not come, she would have worked together with Yao Ming. Zhao Fu smiled as he looked at Mei Qinggu. In actuality, as long as it was against the Devil Horn Empire, he would do anything because the Devil Horn Empire was his enemy. Mei Xianggu lightly harumphed as she said, "I heard that you're not interested in men. Looking at what your lower body is, you really are quite lewd. However, to be able to do it with my husband is your fortune. Ordinary women will never be able to enjoy something like this." Mei Qinggu was only wearing a light muslin dress, so her lower body's reaction could be clearly seen. However, Mei Qinggu did not feel embarrassed at all and said, There's never been a man who could make me react like this before. Emperor Qin, please enjoy me, or else I won't be able to take it anymore." "Wait, our husband won't do it with you in public. Also, do you think you can satisfy our husband by yourself?" By now, Mei Xianggu understood Zhao Fu's personality. Even though everyone else had left, there were still countless soldiers gathered here. Seeing that Mei Qinggu could not wait any longer and was about to take off her remaining piece of clothing and do it in front of countless people, she called out to Mei Qinggu. Mei Qinggu understood and quickly brought Zhao Fu into a tent. She impatiently leaned against Zhao Fu's body and called in 4 beautiful women. She introduced them and said, "These are my 4 great generals, General Li Hua, General Han Yu, General Bai Wu, and General Feng Qiu." The first General Li Hua was quite flirtatious and had a wonderful figure. The second General Han Yu had her hair tied into a ponytail and looked quite heroic. The third General Bai Wu was quite beautiful and had a slim figure, but her chest was quite flat. The fourth General Feng Qiu was quite cold-looking and had a mature figure. "Your Majesty, is this enough?" Mei Qinggu's eyes were filled with lust, and her voice contained a trace of pleading. Zhao Fu smiled as he flipped her over and pressed her down, starting to do it with her. Chapter 1358. After going at it for a while, Zhao Fu felt quite delighted because he found that his cultivation was about to break through. He immediately sat cross-legged and entered a state of cultivation. Right now, Zhao Fu had stage 9 cultivation, and if he broke through, he would reach the Saint Realm. In actuality, Zhao Fu had been about to break through for a long time, but because of his divine bloodline, his cultivation had regressed a bit. However, he had become stronger. A group of women lay on the carpet, panting. Mei Qinggu and the 4 generals' faces were red, and they were still immersed in the pleasure they had just experienced. Mei Xianggu said powerlessly, "Now you know how it feels. Have you already fallen for it? Our husband's reputation for being dissolute is not false at all, and it's dozens of times more powerful." Mei Xianggu also weakly nodded. "I never thought that I would be so happy. Husband is truly the bane of our charmed devil race. Big sister Xianggu, you need to teach me how to serve husband. I want to be done by him every day." The four generals said powerlessly, "We're also willing to follow king and serve husband. Please teach us, big sister Xianggu." Mei Xianggu gave a scheming smile. She was older than Mei Qianggu and the others, and she lived in the harem. She was incredibly scheming, and there was no need for her to chat with these people. From how she saw it, the charmed devil world would belong to Qin sooner or later. Zhao Fu had so many beautiful women in his harem, so she needed to gather the charmed devil race's women to expand her faction. That way, she would be able to gain power in Qin. From how she saw it, the charmed devil world would belong to Great Qin sooner or later. Zhao Fu had many beautiful women in his harem, so she needed to gather more charmed devil women to expand her faction. That way, she would be able to gain power in Great Qin in the future. The massive difference between Stage 9 and Saint Realm was the difference in the nature of their power. Stage 1 to Stage 9 was just cultivation power, and it was incredibly ordinary. Saint Realm power was a high-grade power that had evolved from ordinary power. The huge gap between the Ninth Order and the Sage Realm was the difference in the nature of the power. The First Order to the Ninth Order was merely the power of cultivation, which was extremely ordinary. The power of the Sage Realm was the high-level power that had evolved from ordinary power. This kind of high-grade power was many times more powerful than ordinary cultivation power. In other words, Saint Realm power reigned above all ordinary power. Without the support of some high-grade energy, ordinary Type 9 powerhouses basically had no hope of defeating a Saint Realm powerhouse. Right now, Zhao Fu's body had already fused with the power of the Sage Realm, but it was not over yet. The most important thing for a Sage Realm expert was the Sage Realm. At this moment, Zhao Fu was comprehending his Saint Realm. The power of the world was gathering rapidly, and Zhao Fu's body was emitting an intense light. The power of the Saint Blood was being released without any concealment. The expression of the woman, who had been powerlessly lying on the carpet, fell as her bloodline felt immense terror. Her blood felt as if it was going to stop flowing, and her body gradually became cold. In front of this bloodline might, everyone felt as if they were standing in front of an insurmountable mountain. "Sister Mushroom, what kind of bloodline does my husband have?" My royal bloodline didn't resist at all and completely submitted to that aura. This was the first time Mei Qianggu had looked so terrified. She had never been so afraid before. Mei Xianggu naturally did not know either. Zhao Fu had not told her much, and under this bloodline's aura, her face became somewhat pale. However, she still pretended to be the person closest to Zhao Fu. Only then would she be able to convince Mei Qianggu and the others. She said in a profound tone, "Our husband's bloodline is a shocking secret. It's best if you don't know about it, or else the consequences will be severe." Hearing these words, the women did not doubt her at all. They got up and put on their clothes, not daring to stay here because they would definitely be affected. Boom! Just as they left, countless traces of Six Desires demonic qi rose up from Zhao Fu's body. Because the cultivation technique had an effect on the Saint Realm, the cultivation technique gave the Saint Realm its power. Zhao Fu had already started to form his Saint Realm in his mind, and the Six Desires demonic gods appeared within it. In actuality, Zhao Fu could already stabilize his Saint Realm and break through to the Saint Realm. However, Zhao Fu was not satisfied with his Saint Realm's power, so he planned to fuse the 72 Saint Realms he had fused into his Saint Realm. The process was quite difficult, and Zhao Fu's Six Desires Divine Realm devoured the Saint Realm's power. After absorbing all of their power, the Six Desires demonic gods' bodies seemed to become corporeal. Boom! Zhao Fu stabilized his Saint Realm, and a wave of Saint Realm power spread out. Zhao Fu had officially become a Saint Realm cultivator. Whether it was his body or soul, Zhao Fu felt as if he had gone through a transformation. He felt as if his comprehension of the heavens and earth had become clearer, and his power had greatly increased. This was the power of the Saint Realm. Yao Ming retreated to the Devil Horn Empire, feeling incredibly humiliated. It was as if the woman he loved had been stolen by Zhao Fu. And what was even more infuriating was that that woman had lewdly begged Zhao Fu to do her in front of him. If it wasn't for the Yolin Empire being in the Charmed Devil world, Yao Ming would have disregarded everything to take down the Charmed Devil world and have the entire Charmed Devil world suffer his wrath. However, now that the Yolin Empire had come with ill intentions, Yao Ming hesitated as to whether or not to change his plans. He had indeed wanted to attack the Mermaid world, but with such a terrifying existence like the Yolin Empire, he would sooner or later have to face off against the Yolin Empire. With the Devil Horn Empire's power, it would definitely lose. Even the other royal kingdoms did not want to get involved, as the Yolin Empire was a royal kingdom in the inner regions of the ancient stem domain. After thinking about it, Yao Ming decided not to go to the right for now in order to avoid facing off against the Yolin Empire. He would make a decision after figuring out the Yolin Empire's purpose in coming here. As such, he could only look to the left. Because of the Yolin Empire's existence, Yao Ming felt a strange sense of fear and felt that there would be great danger. As such, he sent out ambassadors to the other royal kingdoms to see how they would deal with this. Only by facing the Yolin Empire would they have the power to retaliate. "What are you doing?" Zhao Fu looked at Mei Qinggu and the 4 generals who were serving him, and Mei Xianggu smiled as she taught them. "Husband, we want to do it with you every day, so of course we have to learn how to serve you," Mei Qinggu said as she looked at Zhao Fu seriously. Zhao Fu cut them off and said, "Let's return to politics. I want most of your forces and the Goreo Kingdom's forces to evacuate to Qin. Don't worry, your status and power will not change. The Charmed Devil world is too dangerous right now, and the Yolin Empire could attack at any time without any warning. Moreover, this continent is the closest to the Yolin Empire and is the most dangerous." Mei Qinggu stopped and sank in her thoughts before nodding. They were mainly worried about the Yolin Empire suddenly attacking. If all of their forces remained here, they would not be able to evacuate quickly. The Goreo Kingdom and Mei Qinggu's Charmbone Kingdom started to evacuate their forces, and Zhao Fu returned to Qin and ordered people to take them in. Chapter 1359. That mysterious world was a spirit race world, and it was a wind spirit world. The creatures that lived there were all born with wind attribute power, and the wind spirit race was a relatively powerful race. The wind spirit world had 5 continents, and 4 of them were still in a period of chaos. However, the central continent had been unified, and it was the most powerful faction in the wind spirit world. The leader of this faction was the World Protector, and it was said that he had the title of Wind God Son. It was said that he had a pure wind god bloodline and had the ability to control massive storms. His faction was called the Wind God Kingdom, and it was only one word different from the Yolin Empire. Zhao Fu wondered what their relationship was. The Wind God Son had unified the continent and become the most powerful faction in the wind spirit world, and the other continents had allied together to resist him. The 4 continents allied together were unable to destroy the Wind God Kingdom, and the Wind God Kingdom could not do anything to the 4 continents. This was the information that the Mozak's fish spirit had gathered. Zhao Fu had long since expected that mysterious world to be closely related to the Yolin Empire. However, Zhao Fu was not sure what their relationship was. If they were enemies, the Yolin Empire would definitely bring a massive army to destroy the wind spirit world. That would be for the best, as only one world would suffer. After destroying the wind spirit world, the Yolin Empire would leave, and everyone else would be safe. Many people hoped that this was the case. After all, the wind spirit world had nothing to do with them, and its destruction would not affect anyone else. As long as the terrifying existence known as the Aeolian Empire left, everything would be fine. However, there was another possibility, which was that the wind god Sun and the Aeolian Empire were on good terms. If that was the case, things would be quite dangerous. Because of this, the Aeolian Empire definitely would not attack the wind spirit world. So why had it brought such a massive army? It was very likely that the Aeolian Empire would help the wind spirit world attack other kingdoms and help the wind spirit world become a royal kingdom. If that was the case, the surrounding worlds would all be in great danger, and they would all be attacked by the Aeolian Empire. Qin was also one of them, as it was only one world away from the wind spirit world. The Devilhorn Empire was relatively safe, and it was only 2 worlds away. However, it was possible that it was the Aeolian Empire's target. AI. After hearing the information about the wind spirit world, Zhao Fu heavily sighed and felt a great deal of pressure. If it was the second type, the people in the surrounding worlds would not be able to retaliate at all, and the inner regions of the ancient stem domain would not do anything either. After all, they would not suffer any losses, and the other side was a royal kingdom from the inner regions of the ancient stem domain. They would not be able to defeat them. Zhao Fu gathered all of his subordinates to discuss, and they had to, of their own. Of kingdom, they would not be able to do. With Great Qin's current strength, it definitely would not be able to stop them. After all, even ordinary royal kingdoms would not be able to stop them, let alone royal kingdoms from the inner regions of the ancient stem domain. As such, they could only think of other methods, and they could not count on the royal kingdoms from the inner regions of the ancient stem domain. The Aeolian Empire was such a powerful kingdom that it definitely had opponents or enemies in the inner domains. If they heard about this, they would definitely interfere. Zhao Fu ordered people to investigate the Aeolian Empire, and they found that the Aeolian Empire had a mortal enemy in the inner domains called the Demon Cloud Empire. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and ordered people to leak this information to the Demon Cloud Empire. He then waited to see what the Demon Cloud Empire would do. After hearing about the Aeolian Empire's actions, the Demon Cloud Empire seemed to have sent people to confirm this and started to move their forces. However, they did not show any signs of stopping them for now. However, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. The Demon Cloud Empire would definitely interfere and would not allow the Aeolian Empire to achieve its goal so easily. That way, Qin would not have to face as much pressure in the future. Moreover, Qin had to quickly increase his strength. Only with enough strength would he be able to protect himself. Zhao Fu gave the order to quickly digest the news of conquering the Spirit Light World and the Corpse Pall World. Now that the Wind Spirit World's barrier had disappeared, they would know what would happen. They would also know what the relationship between the Aeolian Empire and the Wind God Sun was. In order to ensure Great Qin's safety, Zhao Fu planned to send ambassadors to some kingdoms in the inner regions. On one hand, he would secretly spread the news about the Wind God Empire, and on the other, he might be able to obtain the support of some kingdoms in the inner regions. Because of the Aeolian Empire's appearance, there were fewer battles, and the Devilhorn Empire, Qin Empire, and allied worlds all became more careful. Since there were no battles, Zhao Fu turned his attention to other matters. The Emperor Killing Sword World had leveled up and could now transform 10,000 people into Sword Obsession. With how terrifying Sword Obsession was, 10,000 people in Sword Obsession could rival millions of soldiers. In other words, a single person in Sword Obsession could kill hundreds of ordinary Stage 1 soldiers. With 10,000 people in Sword Obsession, the Emperor Killing Sword World's power would greatly increase. If it reached the next stage, 100,000 people in Sword Obsession will be able to rival tens of millions of soldiers, and 1 million people in Sword Obsession would be able to rival hundreds of millions of soldiers. If it was 100 million people in Sword Obsession, they would be able to defend against tens of billions of soldiers. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Moreover, Sword Obsession at a higher stage was almost unkillable. The Emperor Killing Sword World had great nurturing value, so Zhao Fu naturally paid attention to it. It would be best if the 10,000 people in Sword Obsession were sword cultivators, and they had to have decent talent. Zhao Fu relaxed his requirements and no longer needed geniuses in the way of the sword. After all, it was impossible for there to be so many geniuses, so he could only add those with decent talent. As for who to choose from, Zhao Fu would definitely choose the ancient sword sect. After all, as a sword sect, their disciples were all sword cultivators, and there were many of them. Even though the ancient sword sect had provided some resources to Qin, this was not enough to dispel Zhao Fu's hatred towards the ancient sword sect. Zhao Fu did not want that small portion of resources, but because of the pressure, he could only accept it. Otherwise, with how much hatred Zhao Fu felt towards the ancient sword sect, how could he accept those resources? As such, Zhao Fu would still choose the ancient sword sect. Following this, Zhao Fu went to where Lin Yan was. Lin Yan was from the ancient sword sect and was one of the top-ranked geniuses in the way of the sword. She understood the ancient sword sect very well, and with her help, Zhao Fu would have less trouble. "Husband, you're here." Seeing Zhao Fu, Lin Yan flirtatiously smiled as she leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace and kissed him. She then impatiently took off her clothes, wanting to do it with Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu stopped her and found that Ling Feishue, the ancient sword sect's madam, was also here. Chapter 1360. Zhao Fu thought back to Yu Qingshui. Even though he had helped her suppress the 6 desires' demonic qi, her body had still been affected by it. It seemed that Ling Feishue was the same, and she was doing her best to suppress herself. In the future, I should use the 6 desires' demonic qi less, because it doesn't seem to be completely under my control, Zhao Fu thought to himself. "Husband, don't you want to do our sect master's madam? She's been waiting for a long time. Come." Seeing Zhao Fu's gaze fall on Ling Feishue, Lin Yan flirtatiously pulled Zhao Fu in front of Ling Feishue. Ling Feishue's face became red, and she turned her head away, not daring to look at Zhao Fu. Even though her body greatly wanted it, she did her best to restrain herself. However, if Zhao Fu really wanted to do anything to her, she definitely wouldn't resist. However, she definitely wouldn't take the initiative. However, Lin Yan's words shattered her final resistance. "Big sis Feishue, think about the ancient sword sect. In actuality, our husband is very good, but you have to behave well." For the ancient sword sect, Ling Feishue made up her mind, and her beautiful eyes became gentle as she looked at Zhao Fu and started to serve Zhao Fu. Lin Yan also happily served Zhao Fu. Following this, Zhao Fu started to do it with the 2 of them, enjoying the ancient sword sect's madam's body. This was because he wanted to take revenge on the ancient sword sect. After doing it, Ling Feishue weakly lay in Zhao Fu's embrace. After suppressing her desires for so long, she had gone crazy. Zhao Fu told Lin Yan why he had come, and the red-faced Lin Yan happily agreed because she had a chance to be alone with Zhao Fu. "Your Majesty, I don't hope that you'll spare everyone from the ancient sword sect, but can you spare some of them? I'm yours from now on. I'll take good care of you." Ling Feishue's voice was a bit weak, but she looked at Zhao Fu hopefully. Now that Ling Feishue was with Qin, she could see how quickly Qin had developed and how powerful he was. Even though the ancient sword sect was powerful, Qin would destroy the ancient sword sect sooner or later. This was something that Ling Feishue was certain of. Zhao Fu lifted Ling Feishue's chin and teased, "Don't worry. I'll let a portion of the people from the ancient sword sect off, but right now I want to hear you call me husband." Ling Feishue looked quite embarrassed and felt that she had let down the ancient sword sect's sect master. However, for the ancient sword sect and for herself, she needed Zhao Fu. Now that she had done it with Zhao Fu, she did not want to continue suffering like before. Ling Feishue called out shyly, "Husband." The ancient sword sect was a faction that had existed for a long time, and it had at least 400 billion people in the 10 worlds. How could Zhao Fu kill all of them? He would definitely kill the higher-ups and subdue the rest. Zhao Fu started to ask Lin Yan about the ancient sword sect's factions. The Emperor-killing sword world could convert higher-grade cultivators, and even though the requirements for talent were lowered, it could increase the cultivation of those people. A Stage 2 cultivator could fight against 6 or 7 Stage 1 soldiers. A Stage 3 cultivator could fight against 36 Stage 1 soldiers. A Stage 4 cultivator could fight against 216 Stage 1 soldiers. And a Stage 5 cultivator could fight against 600 or so Stage 1 soldiers. With the Emperor Killing Sword World's power, it could convert people with Stage 6 cultivations. Any higher than that would be quite troublesome, as they could use their powerful cultivation to defend. Zhao Fu planned to capture 10,000 Stage 6 swordsmen from the Ancient Sword Sect. With how powerful the Ancient Sword Sect was, 10,000 Stage 6 swordsmen was not a lot. A massive faction like that might have tens of thousands of Stage 8 or Stage 9 swordsmen, and even more Stage 5 or Stage 6 swordsmen. If Zhao Fu could obtain these 10,000 Stage 6 swordsmen, their battle prowess would be equivalent to millions of Stage 1 soldiers. Stage 2 and Stage 3 were low-grade in the inner regions of the ancient STEM domain. Stage 4 and Stage 5 were mid-grade, and Stage 6 and Stage 7 were mid-grade. As such, their positions in the Ancient Sword Sect would not be ordinary. Zhao Fu asked Lin Yan'er about them and found out that Stage 6 swordsmen were managers, so it would be quite troublesome to gather them. However, Zhao Fu found out that the Ancient Sword Sect had an enforcement team. Not only were their sword techniques powerful, but they also had Stage 6 cultivations, and there were 80,000 or so of them. If he could think of a way to draw out this team, he would be able to achieve his goal. Zhao Fu quickly brought Lin Yan'er and started to move. Zhao Fu had wanted to bring Ling Feixue as well. As the sect master's wife, she should know more. However, she did not want to see Zhao Fu harm the Ancient Sword Sect's people, so she did not come. In actuality, Zhao Fu had also thought of a way. There were a few elders in charge of the enforcement team, and if he could capture one of them and obtain their command medallion, he would be able to gather 10,000 enforcement team members. The only difficulty was that those elders were world realm experts and could use a world's power. With Zhao Fu's Saint Realm cultivation and other powers, he might be able to put up a fight. However, Zhao Fu did not plan to rely on his own cultivation because Zhao Fu had a nation armament, which could use the power of 4 worlds and could easily suppress that elder. After arriving outside the Ancient Sword Sect, because of what had happened before, the defenses had become much stronger, and there were powerful restrictions set down, making it difficult for Zhao Fu to enter. It was a pity that he did not bring Yu Ling and Mozax, or else they would have been able to enter easily. Husband, why don't we set up a trap to lure that elder out and then kill that elder? I heard that he has a disciple that he loves dearly. If we capture him, that elder will definitely appear. Lin Yan'er thought about it and suggested. Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded and asked, "Do you know where that disciple is?" Lin Yan'er lightly laughed and said, "Husband, my identity hasn't been exposed yet. In actuality, my identity hasn't been exposed yet. That disciple is called Lunan, and he once madly pursued me, saying that I was the only person he loved in his life. He did many foolish things, but I don't like him. As long as I send him a message, he'll definitely come out to see me." A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he agreed and said, "Then we'll do as you say. Husband, after we succeed, I want you to properly dote on me," Lin Yan'er said coquettishly as she hugged Zhao Fu's arm. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded as he took off her clothes. A while later, a green sword light landed on a flat area. It was an ordinary-looking young man wearing robes. He looked at Lin Yan'er with wide eyes and said in delight, "Yan'er, I never thought that you would still be alive." Lin Yan'er's face was red, and she gave off an alluring aura as she softly replied, "Junior apprentice brother, of course I'm alive. Of course I'm alive. I miss you a little, so I asked you out." Chapter 1361. He had not seen Lin Yan'er in a long time, and hearing her say that she missed him, Lunan felt as if he was dreaming. He asked in disbelief, "Is this true? Yan'er, did you really miss me?" Lin Yan'er put on a weak look and said, "Junior apprentice brother, of course I missed you. Of course I miss you. Why, don't you believe me?" "No, I believe you," Lunan hurriedly said. He was so anxious that he could not speak clearly, and he was afraid that Lin Yan would misunderstand him. Junior apprentice brother, can you help me with something? I want to see your master. Can you call him over? If you help me with this, I'll agree to anything you want. Lin Yan gave off a trace of flirtatiousness as she looked at Lu Nan with her beautiful eyes. Lu Nan felt as if his heart was going to jump out of his chest, and his blood quickly flowed. He felt as if he had lost the ability to think, and he immediately agreed. All right, I'll immediately call my master over. As he spoke, Lu Nan excitedly took out a sword talisman and shot it out. Senior apprentice sister Yan, now that I've helped you, can I really do anything? I want to hug you, and if possible, I want to kiss you, Lu Nan said nervously as he looked at the flirtatious Lin Yan. However, Lin Yan's expression instantly changed, and she said condescendingly with a trace of mockery, Junior apprentice brother, do you think you're capable of touching me? Don't even dream about it. I only belong to my husband. Lu Nan felt quite startled, and looking at Lin Yan's sudden change in attitude, he could not react in time. Yan, when did you have a husband? Was it senior apprentice brother Xiao? That's right. He disappeared from the ancient sword sect with you. Lin Yan said disdainfully, he doesn't have a right. If I tell you who my husband is, it'll scare you. He's the mysterious emperor that the ancient stem domain has been searching for this entire time. Immediately, Lu Nan felt as if he had fallen into icy water and felt a bone-chilling coldness. His body instinctively trembled, and he felt a wave of terror. That mysterious emperor's name was incredibly terrifying, and he had enmity with the ancient sword sect. Thinking about what Lin Yan had just asked him to do, Lu Nan did not hesitate and turned to run, wanted to tell his master not to come. Pooh! A sharp sword pierced through his chest from behind. Lu Nan struggled to turn his head to look at the woman he loved the most. There was no hatred, no anger, only some sadness. Lin Yan smiled and whispered in Lu Nan's ear, Junior apprentice brother, don't worry. You have such a good master, but you're still so weak. Look at how quickly my cultivation has risen. Right now, I'm also at the Saint Realm. It's all thanks to my husband. Actually, I was a bit touched by what you did before. Although your identity is not bad, your talent is too low. You can't compare to Xiao Chongfeng, and you can't compare to my husband. Although I'm only one of the countless women he has, I will continue to work hard. If I do this well, my husband will dote on me and do it with me in all kinds of positions. I'm addicted to that feeling. You should be happy for me now. I'm doing very well now. Thank you for your help. I'll remember you. Blood continuously flowed out of Lu Nan's mouth, and his aura continuously became weaker. He looked at Lin Yan in a daze and said, I wish you the best. Lin Yan smiled and lightly nodded. She pulled out the sword that had pierced through Lu Nan's chest, and Lu Nan powerlessly fell to the ground, turning into a corpse. Lin Yan waved her hand and put Lu Nan's corpse away. She covered up the traces of blood and smiled as she flew into the sky and came to Zhao Fu's side. Husband, that elder still hasn't come? How about I serve you for a while? Zhao Fu did not even think about it and immediately refused. That's a world realm expert. You can't be careless. Lin Yan hugged Zhao Fu's arm and smelled Zhao Fu's aura as she nodded and looked into the distance, waiting for the elder to arrive. Boom! A powerful ray of light shot over, giving off a massive aura. It was an ugly-looking middle-aged man. After arriving, the middle-aged man looked around and did not find Lu Nan. He felt quite confused and felt a trace of a bad premonition. By the time he wanted to do something, it was too late. Boom! A 100-meter-tall bronze giant appeared behind him and raised its bronze sword with both hands. It gave off a heaven-toppling aura of killing and conquering as it slashed out, causing destructive power to explode out. Azure light exploded out, covering everything. Cough! However, the elder was not dead and coughed up a large mouthful of blood as if he had been heavily injured. Zhao Fu had released all of his nation armament's power and had launched a sneak attack, but he had not been able to kill the elder. It seemed that world realm experts were not ordinary. However, the elder had been heavily injured after receiving that attack, and Zhao Fu did not hesitate to summon more bronze soldiers, killing the elder in a few more blows. Zhao Fu first put away the elder's corpse. This was a true world realm expert's corpse, and it was a very precious material. After receiving the elder's command medallion, Zhao Fu used it to send out orders for the 10,000 law enforcement sword cultivators to come. Because he did not want to attract too much attention, Zhao Fu did not dare to call out too much. The law enforcement sword cultivators came according to Zhao Fu's orders. There were men and women, and some of them were quite old, and their auras were all quite powerful. Because this was an order from a world realm elder, no one dared to question it. After all, there were only 10 or so world realm experts in the ancient sword, and all of them had great authority. Their statuses were incredibly prestigious. Seeing the 10,000 law enforcement sword cultivators foolishly gathered here, Zhao Fu smiled as he walked out. "Who are you?" Seeing this stranger suddenly appear, everyone felt that something was off, and some people even stealthily retreated, planning to immediately escape. Zhao Fu smiled and did not reply. There was no point in talking to a group of dead people. He took out the Emperor Killing Sword, and a ferocious and evil aura flowed out, causing countless people's bodies to freeze, and they felt terror from the depths of their souls. "Hurry and run." Most people understood that this was a trap, and someone yelled, "Boom!" In that moment, Zhao Fu stabbed his sword into the ground, and a terrifying black and blood-red energy barrier spread out, covering the 10,000 law enforcement sword cultivators. "Ghost Lord!" Zhao Fu lightly cried out as a cold and eerie aura spread out, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. White-robed, ghostly figures with savage expressions and claw-like hands appeared behind the countless law enforcement sword cultivators. After these ghostly figures appeared, they evilly laughed and grabbed the law enforcement sword cultivators before disappearing, seeming to drag them into nothingness. Some people were unable to resist at all, as they could not attack the ghostly figures at all. They were like phantoms and could not harm them at all. Chapter 1362. The law enforcement sword cultivators who had disappeared were naturally dragged into the Emperor Killing Sword world, and none of them were able to escape. After doing all of this, Zhao Fu and Lin Yan'er quickly left. Even though Zhao Fu had his nation armament and did not fear world realm experts, if the ancient sword sectmaster came, Zhao Fu would not be a match for him. As such, he had to leave as soon as possible. After all, he had already achieved his goal. Following this, the ancient sword sect quickly found out about what had happened here. They had lost a world realm elder and 10,000 stage 6 disciples, which was a great loss. What made them even more furious was that they still did not know who had done it. It was highly likely that it was that mysterious emperor. If it was that mysterious emperor, things would be troublesome, as he had the ability to kill world realm experts. It was possible that the other elders would die at his hands. As such, the ancient sword sect went all out to defend and forbade elders and disciples from going out. The ancient sword sect masters searched for Zhao Fu, wanting to kill him at all costs. Back then, world realm experts could suppress him, but now he could easily kill world realm experts. If he was allowed to continue developing, the ancient sword sect would be in danger. It was not just the ancient sword sect master who was searching for Zhao Fu. The ancient sword sect's core also prepared to move out and kill Zhao Fu. In the Bear Mountain Kingdom, the Nether End dynasty's expression was quite serious. They had never thought that the other party would be such a threat, and they regretted what they had done in the past. They had not received any benefits and had offended such a terrifying person. The other large factions felt quite shocked, but the Dao cultivation sect was not surprised. They had long since expected this. Zhao Fu returned to Qin City and completed what he had promised Lin Yan'er, and he started to do it with her and Ling Feishue. "Husband, there's important military information." Hearing the sounds from within the room, as well as the two women's moans, Tina Pendragon's face became red as she softly called out from outside. Come in." Zhao Fu's voice sounded out from within the room, but the sounds did not stop. Tina Pendragon's face was red as she lightly pushed open the door and entered. She did not know how many times she had done it with Zhao Fu, so she did not feel restrained anymore. Zhao Fu rode on Tina Pendragon's body as he asked what had happened. Tina Pendragon panted as she replied that the Devil Horn Empire was preparing to attack the White God world, and that the alliance had almost collapsed. Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and asked Tina Pendragon about it. It turned out that the Devil Horn Empire had changed its plans and no longer planned to develop to the right. It was afraid of facing off against the Yolin Empire on the right, so it decided to develop to the left. The White God world was an excellent target. Above it was the Rock Spirit world, which had been conquered by the Devil Horn Empire, and below it was the Spirit Light world, which had been conquered by Qin. To its right was the Half-Beast world, which had long since fallen, and to its left was the desolate Crow world, which had already split apart. Now the White God world was completely isolated, and anyone wanted to make a move against it, while the White God world was isolated and helpless. However, the White God world was one of the main members of the Alliance, and if they really wanted to make a move against it, the Alliance would have to reconsider. Once they attacked, they would not be weak at all. However, the Devil Horn Empire had thought of a way to deal with this. It had befriended some worlds that were further away and promised to sign eternal contracts not to attack their worlds. This caused the originally disunited alliance to instantly collapse. The reason they had allied together was to resist the Devil Horn Empire. Now that they were not threatened by the Devil Horn Empire, they naturally would not continue to waste time and energy in the alliance. There were 4 worlds that had signed eternal contracts with the Devil Horn Empire, and they were all at the top. They did not have to worry about the Qin Empire below, so the Devil Horn Empire seemed to have decided to develop from the bottom. This was because the higher a world was, the longer it would be. The stronger the foundation, the harder it would be to deal with. On the other hand, the lower a world was, the shorter it would be, and the lower its foundation, the easier it would be to deal with. This was similar to Qin's strategy. The Alliance originally had 8 worlds, but now only 4 remained. The White God world was cut off from the rest of the Alliance, and it could not escape its fate of being destroyed. These 3 worlds understood that they could not stop the Devil Horn Empire, so they asked for peace and left the Alliance. Just like that, the Alliance no longer existed. The Devil Horn Empire did not reply for now, but everyone knew that the Devil Horn Empire would not agree. If the Devil Horn Empire did not attack the worlds above, how could the Devil Horn Empire develop? Zhao Fu understood what had happened. The disappearance of the Alliance was a good thing for the Qin Empire, and he would not have to worry about them doing anything in the future. Looking at the paralyzed Tina Pendragon, she had become the most popular goddess in the surrounding area. Her beauty resounded throughout the surrounding world, and her commanding skills were extraordinary as well. Countless people were madly in love with her, and back then, the charmed Devil King had wanted to give Tina Pendragon to him. Tina, you're becoming more and more beautiful. Zhao Fu hugged her and said teasingly. Tina Pendragon's face became red, and she lightly patted Zhao Fu as she said coquettishly, "You're becoming more and more naughty. Back then, I thought you were a gentleman." Thinking about how she had been ravaged by Zhao Fu while reporting military matters to him, Tina Pendragon felt quite embarrassed. Zhao Fu smiled and said that he was going to take care of some matters before getting up and leaving. The White God world's forces had all gathered because the Devil Horn Empire had started to attack them. They had split into 2 groups, one from the Rock Spirit world and the other from the Half-Beast world. The first to attack was the Half-Beast continent that the White God world had conquered. Facing the ferocious Devil Horn Empire, the White God world could only split into 2 defensive lines. With their world's power, wanting to defend against the Devil Horn Empire, which had 3 worlds and 9 continents, was incredibly difficult. However, they did not want to surrender, so they could only resist. They cursed at the other worlds in the Alliance, saying that they were shameless, stupid, and treacherous, and that they would be destroyed sooner or later. They also cursed at the Devil Horn Empire for being cruel and cold-blooded, and for being a group of beasts who would do anything for power. They knew that they could not defend, so they could only curse to vent their anger. Otherwise, They would not have any other choice. Roar! Massive devil cheese swept out in all directions, and at the front was the devil beast army. The countless flying beasts in the sky covered the sky, and the beasts on the ground were like a flood. The auras from both sides were incredibly ferocious. Facing the devil beast army, the white god world vigorously resisted and unleashed their most powerful methods. They pushed out massive white crystal pillars that were cone-shaped and contained countless runes. White Spirit's Light. Chapter 1363. Bang! Bang! Tens of thousands of beams of white light shot out with incredible speed, flashing past in the blink of an eye. Following this, there was a huge explosion, and the bodies of the demonic beasts were blasted into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere, and terrifying shockwaves spread out. The countless rays of white light were incredibly terrifying and successfully forced back the devil beast's ferocious auras. However, there were still too many devil beasts, and the empty space created by the white light was quickly filled by devil beasts, who continued to ferociously charge over. As the white god people tried to activate the white crystal pillars of light, hundreds of blue eyeballs giving off terrifying auras appeared. Rays of blue light quickly shot out, streaking through the air and landing on the white crystal pillars on the defensive walls. Bang! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as the rays of blue light hit the white crystal pillars, resulting in massive explosions. Hundreds of holes were blasted open on the defensive walls, and there was blood and limbs everywhere. Swish! 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 The white god army did their best to counterattack, and the soldiers drew their bows and shot out arrows that contained immense power. They were like a rain of arrows. Many devil beasts were hit by the arrows and died. However, many devil beasts had already leapt onto the defensive walls and started to kill. They used their bodies to ram at the white god soldiers, tearing them apart with their teeth and claws. Bang! 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 Rays of blue light containing destructive power shot out and hit the defensive walls. Countless rays of blue light shot everywhere, and massive explosions sounded out as countless white god soldiers were once again blasted to death. Swish! 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 Arrows shot out from below towards the white god soldiers on the defensive walls. Many soldiers were killed by the arrows, and some soldiers howled in pain. Some devil beasts rammed at the defensive walls, while others climbed up the defensive walls. Countless devil horn soldiers swarmed up, and the two sides started to fight. The white god soldiers used heavy objects to smash down the enemies climbing up the defensive walls. Some used arrows to pierce through the bodies of the enemies below, while others poured corrosive liquids that corroded the enemies' bodies, causing them to howl in pain. However, the white god race was still in a disadvantageous situation. The defensive walls were in chaos, with devil beasts attacking from all directions and devil horn soldiers rushing up the defensive walls. A devil horn soldier rushed up with a savage expression and killed a white god soldier with a single slash. The other devil horn soldiers also attacked. Some ferociously charged out with their spears, piercing through two white god soldiers, while others leapt onto other white god soldiers and used their sharp teeth to tear through their throats and devour their blood. Cries continuously sounded out as blood flew everywhere and corpses covered the ground. The battle was incredibly intense, and the white god soldiers continuously died. The devil horn soldiers ferociously slaughtered, looking like blood-stained demons. The experts of the two sides clashed in the sky, but the white god empire was still at a disadvantage. After all, the devil horn empire had many times more experts than the white god empire. Clang! Yao Ming disdainfully slashed out, and an enormous violet saber light containing immense power slashed out, splitting a white-clothed, middle-aged man in half. His corpse, blood, and organs fell from the air. This white-clothed man was the most powerful expert in the white god world, yet he was so weak. He had only been able to defend against a few attacks from Yao Ming before being easily killed. Now, who could stop Yao Ming? Now, the white god race was finished, and they no longer had any hope of stopping the Devil Horn army. Countless white god people looked on with despair, and some people started to retreat while others planned to surrender. Because there was no heaven domain boundary here, it was possible for them to escape to other worlds. As such, many people wanted to escape to other worlds. Perhaps they would be able to do something and would not be bullied by the Devil Horn Empire. The Devil Horn Empire did not treat those who surrendered well, and the white god race had heard of the Devil Horn Empire's brutality. On the other hand, Qin's side was incredibly good. Even though Qin was incredibly ferocious when fighting and caused countless people to feel fear, Qin still treated those who surrendered well. However, how could the Devil Horn Empire allow them to escape? Yao Ming coldly laughed and planned to start a massacre. He still remembered how these white god people had cursed at him before, and if he did not slaughter some of them, he would not be able to quell his anger. Kill! Yao Ming gave the order, and the Devil Horn army ferociously charged at the white god people. Their auras shook the surroundings, and no one could stop them. Under this terrifying offensive, the white god people were not a match at all, and they started to retreat. Boom! 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 13 pillars of white light rushed into the sky, causing the blue sky to be filled with white light. The white light shined in all directions as a powerful aura spread out, and a holy power covered the entire battlefield. Hurry and run! A moving and magnetic voice sounded out in the sky. Everyone looked over as 13 beautiful women with snow-white hair and white eyes appeared in the sky. They were dressed in white robes and gave off a gentle white light. Everyone felt quite moved. These were the white god race's 13 goddesses. They were in charge of making sacrifices and did not have much power, but they could give decent blessings. Under the white light, the white god people's blood flowed quickly, and they seemed to become more powerful. Their bodies also became lighter, and everyone felt delighted as they ran even faster. Goddesses, you have to hold on for a bit longer and let us escape, or else you'll be punished. That's right. Goddesses, you have the responsibility to protect us. Hurry and use your abilities to delay the Devil Horn soldiers. I don't want to die. If I die, it'll be your fault. You bastards, why didn't you use it just then? If I had, I would have run long ago. Surprisingly, not many people felt grateful, and many people pointed to the goddesses. There's a reason why others said that the white god race was hypocritical and virtuous. The 13 goddesses stood under the pillars of white light with cold expressions and did not mind those words. They did their best to maintain the pillars of white light, increasing the white god people's power and weakening the Devil Horn soldiers' power. When the white god race was in danger, sacrificing them was the goddesses' mission. You're seeking death. Yao Ming slashed at the 13 goddesses, and a massive violet saber light containing power that seemed to be able to slash through everything slashed out. An enormous explosion sounded out, causing everyone to feel terror. The leader of the 13 goddesses, standing in the air, had a cold expression because the strongest person in the world of white light that Yao Ming had killed was her father. Facing this terrifying saber light, the 13 goddesses each stretched out a hand, and a massive white energy barrier blocked in front of them. The barrier gave off a holy aura. Boom! Chapter 1364. The white god people's expressions fell. The 13 pillars of light disappeared, and the power that had been buffing them also disappeared. The weakening effect on the Devil Horn Empire also disappeared. Countless people looked at the Devil Horn army behind them and cried out in despair as they desperately ran. Yao Ming looked at the 13 beautiful goddesses in front of him and coldly harumphed. You 13 bitches, when this king catches you, I'll definitely kill you. The 13 goddesses' faces became pale, and a trace of blood leaked out of their lips. Facing Yao Ming's terrifying power, they were unable to resist at all. Thinking about what would happen if they were captured by Yao Ming, some of the goddesses thought about ending their lives. Boom! An explosion sounded out as Yao Ming's expression fell. He felt an enormous sword light, bringing with it a ferocious sword wind, rush at him. He slashed out with his saber, and a massive saber light slashed out, colliding with the incoming sword light. A figure appeared behind Yao Ming. It was Zhao Fu. Seeing Zhao Fu arrive, Yao Ming looked furious. Zhao Fu always interfered with him, and he had taken revenge for his daughter last time. This caused Yao Ming to roar and gripped his saber with both hands as he charged at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's expression was calm as he held the sadistic killing sword. Black flames appeared around his body, and he exploded out with a powerful aura as he met the incoming Yao Ming. Boom! 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 The battle between the two experts caused the heavens and earth to dim. Powerful shock waves spread out, sending out wild gales and causing countless people to feel fear. Kill! On the other side, the sounds of killing shook the heavens as the black-armored Qin soldiers flooded out like a black flood, giving off an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything as they charged at the Devil Horn army. Countless devils flew in the sky, giving off ear-piercing cries that could cause people's hairs to stand on end. There were all sorts of massive beasts running on the ground, causing the ground to violently tremble. The two sides' auras were incredibly powerful and seemed to be able to destroy everything. Facing the incoming Qin soldiers, the Devil Horn army looked greatly startled and hurriedly turned around. They no longer chased after the White God people and instead defended against the Qin Empire. This caused the escaping White God people to look incredibly delighted. They had never thought that the Qin Empire would suddenly act and turn the situation around. Now, they had two choices. The first was to have the Devil Horn Empire and the Qin Empire fight against each other while they reaped the benefits from a side. The second was to help the Qin Empire attack the Devil Horn Empire from both sides. With the White God race's personality, ordinary people would definitely choose to escape and wait for Devil Horn and Qin to be heavily injured before launching a sneak attack. That way, the White God world would be preserved. The White God clan did not feel any gratitude towards Qin, who had suddenly attacked them. After all, Qin himself was not a good person and would not help the White God clan. Just as the White God people made their decision, something unexpected happened. The Devil Horn Empire was the first to retreat, and the White God people looked quite confused. They had never thought that the Devil Horn army would retreat so easily. Zhao Fu did not chase after them, and Qin soldiers stopped fighting and looked at the White God race. This caused the White God race to look incredibly nervous, and some of them were so scared that their legs trembled. Some of them wanted to run away immediately, but some were afraid that Qin would attack them if they moved. The situation fell into a stalemate. The White God people did not dare to move in front of Qin's army, and Qin did not attack either. The leaders of the other factions did not dare to come in front of Zhao Fu, so they had the 13 goddesses come in front of Zhao Fu. The woman in the lead had a cold expression as she said, as if she was delivering a message, "Thank you, Your Majesty Qin, for saving our lives. The White God race is willing to give the half-beast world's continent to Your Majesty. I wonder if Your Majesty will allow us to leave." Zhao Fu looked at the goddesses in front of him and lightly laughed. "First, I need to correct two things. The half-beast world's continent was conquered by Qin and was not given to you by you. Also, Qin saved you. What were you trying to do before? If I had attacked the Devil Horn Empire with Qin, perhaps I would have been able to heavily injure it. However, what about you? Qin is not here to save you, but to conquer you. Now, you can only surrender or die." Zhao Fu's voice was very loud, cold, and filled with killing intent. It also contained a trace of might. Hearing this, the White God people's expressions fell and they hurriedly ran, while Qin instantly attacked. Swish, 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 swish on the ground, countless White God people desperately ran. Arrows containing immense power tore through the sky and descended like a rain of arrows. Chi, 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 chi. Countless arrows descended. Some hit the escaping White God people, some hit their vitals, and some fell to the ground and howled. Some arrows landed on the ground, kicking up sand and dust. Chi, chi, chi. Countless arrows descended. Cavalrymen holding spears and sabers and riding on tall black horses shot out like arrows as they quickly rushed towards the white god people. Spears pierced through their bodies and dragged their corpses as they continued to run, hunting down other white god people. Large sabers gave off saber light as they slashed down from behind, causing blood to fly everywhere as white god people were killed. Some soldiers threw out lassos that wrapped around their necks and had their horses drag them. The horses in front quickly galloped while the white god tribesmen struggled and screamed miserably. Some of them were killed while they were still alive, while others were dragged to death, their bodies badly mangled. Zhao Fu looked at the 13 goddesses beside him. Their expressions were all different. Some were cold, some were pitiful, and some were sad, but none of them ran. Why aren't you running? Also, Qin is slaughtering your white god people. Don't you hate me? Shouldn't you be thinking of ways to kill me? Zhao Fu asked in confusion. The goddess in the lead coldly replied, Are we a match for you? Do we even have a chance of escaping? Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, That's true. I think the white god race should be a light-type god race, right? I plan to make the 13 of you priests to the light god race, and a light god race will be your white god race's fate god. If a godly spirit had a fate god race, they would be able to obtain a large amount of pure faith, and the godly spirit would become more and more powerful. Because a fate god race had a fate god race, they would be able to obtain all sorts of buffs, and their bloodlines would become pure, giving them great benefits. Zhao Fu found that the white god race was quite suitable to be the light god race's fate god race. Godly spirits also needed priests, so Zhao Fu made the 13 goddesses priests. You're that confident that we'll submit to you? The goddess in the lead coldly looked at Zhao Fu as she said. Zhao Fu did not mind and lightly laughed. Do you have the right to choose? The choice I'm giving you is your best choice. I hope you won't make things difficult for yourselves. Also, what's your name? The goddess in the lead's expression was calm. She had already accepted Zhao Fu's orders because they did not have the right to choose. She replied, I'm called Lung Fei. Chapter 1365. The Devil Horn Empire most likely wanted to attack the White God world from the other side, which was why they had retreated so quickly. By now, they had taken over half of a continent, so Zhao Fu did not hesitate and ordered his army to attack the White God world. The White God world's two main armies had been destroyed by the Devil Horn Empire and the Qin Empire, and they could not resist at all. Most of the remaining people were ordinary residents. The Devil Horn Empire's aura was incredibly grand and unstoppable, and they quickly conquered region after region. The Qin Empire also gave off a ferocious aura and flooded region after region like a black flood. 3 days later, the White God world had a total of 4 continents. The Devil Horn Empire now occupied 2, and Qin Empire occupied 2, once again splitting up the White God world. Yao Ming was furious and gathered his forces, wanting to unify the White God world and chase Qin Empire out. This was because the White God world had always been the Devil Horn Empire's, and it had taken a great deal of effort to take it down. Qin Empire had only come to take advantage of the situation, and more importantly, he had gained more than Yao Ming. The White God world's 2 continents and a half-beast world's 1 continent were 3 continents in total. The Devil Horn Empire had paid a great price, yet Qin Empire had taken all of the benefits. How could Yao Ming accept this? Because of this, a massive battle erupted between the 2 sides. Devil beasts and devils intensely fought, giving off roars that shook the surroundings. They ferociously clashed, and teeth and claws toward each other. Blood flew everywhere, and death accompanied them. The auras they gave off were incredibly shocking, causing people's bodies to tremble. The 2 armies clashed, and it was easy to distinguish them. The Devil Horn Empire's soldiers all wore green armor, while the Qin Empire's soldiers all wore black armor. The 2 sides clashed together like 2 shocking tides, and the auras they gave off seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth. Great Qin's soldiers kicked a Devil Horn soldier to the ground and stabbed their spears through the soldier's chest, killing him. Another Devil Horn soldier loudly roared and leapt at Great Qin's soldiers, tearing at their throats. Its sharp teeth easily bit through a great Qin soldier's throat. The devil horn soldier's expression was savage as he slashed out with a saber, sending out a saber light that split a Qin soldier in half. Blood flew everywhere, and the Qin soldier coldly swung his sword, cutting off a devil horn soldier's head. Boom! The two gigantic groups of cavalry clashed fiercely against each other. One group of black armored riders rode tall, black horses, while the other group of green armored riders rode scale-covered horses. A series of sounds of weapons clashing rang out, and blood flew everywhere as people fell from their horses. Roar! The ground shook violently as massive stone golems crawled out of the ground. There were tens of thousands of them, and they suddenly attacked Qin soldiers. Their massive bodies slammed into the soldiers, sending them flying. Many of Qin's soldiers were killed. Bang, bang, bang. Countless rays of light covered the sky as tens of thousands of 100-meter-tall ball giants giving off white light appeared, shooting out rays of white light towards the Devil Horn Empire. The rays of white light blasted towards the Devil Horn army, killing countless Devil Horn soldiers. The battle situation was bitter, and the smell of blood had already spread to every corner of the world. Countless people had died, and the battle was many times more terrifying than when they had attacked the White God world. Because the kings of both sides were far away from the Emperor Heaven Realm experts, they did not have as many misgivings as before. They unleashed the full power of their nation armaments, causing the heavens and earth to dim. Terrifying shock waves blasted out, causing the sky to explode. The battle continued for a day, and both sides suffered great losses. The Devil Horn Empire's losses were slightly greater, but Yao Ming suppressed his anger and gave the order to stop attacking. He had also suffered heavy injuries. Zhao Fu was also slightly injured, and he gave the order for Qin's soldiers to stop attacking. The battle once again fell into a stalemate, and after suffering massive losses, neither side wanted to continue pointlessly. Just like that, the battle stopped. Both sides left behind some soldiers in the White God world, and their main forces started to retreat. The White God world was split in half, becoming a part of Qin and the Devil Horn Empire, and the White God world was destroyed. This caused the surrounding worlds to feel incredibly shocked. This was the home field of the two empires, and other worlds could not interfere at all. The two empires could control any world and could even destroy that world. Now, there are almost no worlds left between the two empires. Only the grassy world, half-beast world, elf world, and white god world have been destroyed so easily because they were between the two empires. They were just unlucky. If they were not in that position, they might have been able to survive for a long time. The number of worlds that have been destroyed reached a shocking 9. The Lantong world, Rock Spirit world, Grassy world, Half-Beast world, Elf world, White God world, Fish Scale world, Dark Demon world, and Spirit Light world. The two empires had risen up on the corpses of other worlds. The battle between the two empires was not over yet, and the Eolian Empire had also appeared. It was the most terrifying one, and no one knew what terrifying things would happen in the future. Because the White God world was not safe, Zhao Fu planned to move the White God world back to Qin. Their gains this time were quite ordinary, and the White God world had only obtained 18 billion White God world. Qin had subdued a portion, the Devil Horn Empire had stolen a portion, and a portion had escaped to other worlds, which was why they had so few people. Following this, Zhao Fu brought the 13 goddesses to the Light God Palace. A beautiful woman with silver white hair and white eyes wearing a pure white cloak appeared before everyone. She gave off a holy aura. The 13 goddesses were quite shocked. As soon as this woman appeared, their bloodlines had reacted. As part of the god race, they naturally understood why. This was a reaction that would only occur when facing a true godly spirit. Qin was nurturing godly spirits. Did he not have to worry about a godly spirit's backlash? In actuality, there were many people who nurtured godly spirits, but this was quite dangerous. First, godly spirits required faith, which meant that one's subject had to believe in them. If one did not control them well, their subjects would be bewitched by the godly spirit, and submit to them. They would no longer be loyal to themselves, and the godly spirit would be able to seize power. After obtaining a certain amount of divine power and faith, the godly spirit would enter the godly spirit world and continue to control the world below. The godly spirit world was made up of divine power, and if a godly spirit stayed there, their power would quickly increase. Moreover, the various attributes were related to the godly spirit, making it much more comfortable. They could also develop their god race there and obtain even purer faith, so most godly spirits would enter the godly spirit world. The 13 goddesses did not know about Sheen's policies. Faith was only faith, and believers did not have any power. Godly spirits did not have any power either. Monarchs ruled over everything, and godly spirits had to submit to monarchs. Chapter 1366. The godly spirit, giving off an aura of light, lightly leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace and said shyly, "Husband, you haven't come in a while. You haven't been here for a while. I miss you." Zhao Fu lightly smiled as he hugged her and said, "I've been quite busy recently, so I haven't been able to come. This time, I'm going to make the white god race your life god race." The light god looked at the 13 goddesses and found that their attributes were quite compatible with hers. She was quite happy, but also a bit shy as she said to Zhao Fu, "Thank you, husband. I'll serve you well later." The 13 goddesses now understood the relationship between Zhao Fu and the godly spirit in front of them. Zhao Fu had not even let go of a godly spirit. Emperor Qin's reputation for being dissolute was quite shocking. Didn't Zhao Fu have a divinity in his mind? After communicating with Erisina, the god of fallen angel, Zhao Fu found that he could absorb their divine power after doing it with godly spirits. At the same time, the divinity in his mind would become larger. In order to obtain even more divine power, Zhao Fu had intimate interactions with the various goddesses. There was no need to go into the specifics. The light god was called Rui Shi, and with a wave of her hand, she turned the 13 goddesses into her priests. Next, she would make the white god race her life god race. In actuality, very few races would do this. Even though they would receive a lot of divine power, their power, bloodline, body, and even thoughts would be controlled by their life god. If their life god wanted them to do something, they would follow their life god's orders without hesitation. Most god races were not willing to do this. Zhao Fu was not worried about these godly spirits devouring him because he had complete control over them. As such, he wanted to do everything he could to increase their power. On a massive empty space, there was a massive altar that was dozens of meters tall. There were 4 blood pools around the altar that gave off a dense, bloody smell, and there were nearly 100 million white god people kneeling around it. The radiant goddess Ruishi stood at the center of the altar, and the 13 goddesses stood around her. She had a pious look on her face as she started chanting, and her body gave off an intense light. The light seemed to be absorbed by a suction force and entered Rui Shi's body. Rui Shi slowly opened his arms, and his body gave off light. Boom! A massive pillar of white light shot into the sky, and a massive holy aura spread out. The blood in the blood pool below was sucked up to the altar, forming 4 blood-red ribbons. The blood gathered in front of Rui Shi, forming a blood orb. The white god people all began to chant, "I'm willing to worship the light god Ruishi. I'm willing to worship the light god Ruishi. I'm willing to worship the light god Ruishi." Wisps of white-colored aura emerged from their bodies and flew towards the altar, merging into the blood ball in front of Ruishi. The blood and the white-colored aura continuously condensed, forming a rhombus-shaped blood crystal that was as long as a finger. The white-colored aura was the faith energy that the white god people gave off, and the blood was the white god people's blood. The two of them formed the faith blood crystal. The faith blood crystal was controlled by Rui Shi and slowly fused into her body. Within her body, the most important and source divinity started to absorb the faith blood crystal. The faith blood crystal was slowly absorbed by the divinity, and a powerful aura exploded out from Rue Shi's body. It was filled with a holy light that surpassed mortals, and it was the might of a true, godly spirit. Boom! An even more powerful pillar of white light shot into the sky, causing the sky to give off a piercing white light. Under this white light, the white god people in the surroundings gradually calmed down, and a warm energy entered their bodies. Now, the white god race was the light god's fate race. Qin had subdued 18 billion white god people, and only a small portion of them had come. However, Rue Shi, who had absorbed the faith blood crystal, could control the white god race and receive the white god race's fate. The other white god people only needed to enter her god palace and kneel to become one of her fate race, and they would not have to go through so much trouble. After absorbing the faith blood crystal, Rue Shi's divine power had become even more powerful, and it was now twice as powerful as before. After Rue Shi turned the 18 billion white god people into her fate race, her power would be equivalent to half a world realm experts. This was a massive increase. Before, the light god only had stage 9 power, and she did not have any power at all. Her body had been in a hazy state, and she had relied on faith energy to slowly recover. Rue Shi brought the 13 goddesses and flew down from the sky. The surrounding white god people all looked incredibly devout and excited. Even though they were from the god race, how could ordinary people see a true god? Even though the light god was weak, she was still a god. After returning to the Radiant God Palace, Zhao Fu looked at the Radiant God stats and found that not only did she have a few light blessings, but she also had a few powerful divine skills, such as Dispel Evil, Heal, and Light Power. Husband, I'll serve you now. Within the Light God Palace, Rue Shi's face was red and her eyes became misty. She was actually serving Zhao Fu in front of her 13 priests. The 13 goddesses looked quite confused. Even though they knew about the relationship between the Light God and Zhao Fu, they had never thought that the Light God, who looked so pure and holy, would be so daring. Soon, Zhao Fu started to do it with the Light God Rue Shi, and the 13 goddesses' faces became red as they stood there, not knowing what to do. However, a while later, they started to pant under Zhao Fu's body. Your Majesty, wait a moment. Wait a moment, I have a condition. Just as Zhao Fu was about to do it with Lung Fi lightly pushed Zhao Fu away and said coldly, Zhao Fu, please wait. What is it? What is it? Zhao Fu looked at the naked beauty in his arms and smiled as he asked, I want you to kill Yao Ming because he killed my father. Lung Fei, he looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful white eyes and said calmly to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly laughed. Even if you didn't say it, I would have done it. Lung Fei, he did not stop Zhao Fu, and the two of them started to do it. She now knew why the light god had become so licentious. Half a day later, Zhao Fu hugged the light god Rue Shi with one hand and Lung Fei with the other. Lung Fei's face was completely red, looking like snow that had melted in winter, and she gave off a beautiful aura. Emperor Qin, I never thought that submitting to you would result in the same thing as being captured by Yao Ming. Lung Fei lightly harumphed as she lay in Zhao Fu's embrace. Chapter 1367. What's more, the 13 of you are the most beautiful goddesses in the white god race, and no king would not be moved. As a supreme emperor, I naturally will not restrain myself. Also, can Yao Ming give you the feeling you have now? Lung Fei's face became red, and she lightly pinched Zhao Fu as she said coquettishly, the people outside were right about you. The light god Rue, she shyly smiled as she said, Husband, they are all my priests. In the future, you should come to the light god palace more often. We will serve you together. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded before preparing to leave the light god palace. Boom! Suddenly, a shocking explosion sounded out as the ground violently trembled. Only after a while did the trembling stop. Qin and the others looked quite shocked because the sound had come from near the Qin royal city. Zhao Fu's expression slightly changed, and he turned into a ray of light and shot out of the light god palace. He came to the place where the explosion had come from, causing Zhao Fu's expression to become serious. The place where the explosion had come from was underground. Just as Zhao Fu was about to go down and take a look, Li Wen hurriedly brought people out. Seeing Zhao Fu, he half knelt on the ground and reported, "Your Majesty, we just opened up all of the underground tunnels and never thought that such a thing would happen. A massive hole has appeared, and because the aura coming out is extremely dangerous, this subordinate did not go and take a look." Hearing this, Zhao Fu understood and nodded, and he had the people around him retreat. The underground region was one of the most important things in Qin City, and it contained unknown dangers. Following this, Zhao Fu followed Li Wen and went underground. They went through a massive passageway and came to a cave. This cave was tens of thousands of meters wide, and it was completely dark inside. Not even light could shine in. Waves of terrifying aura flowed up from below, making people feel as if they had fallen into an icy cavern. Ordinary stage 9 experts would feel terror under this aura, so it was no wonder that Li Wen had hurriedly retreated. Rui Shi, the golden dragon, said seriously, "Zhao Fu, this hole doesn't belong to the Heaven Murder Empire. This cave doesn't belong to the Heaven Murder Empire. Be careful." Hearing the golden dragon's warning, Zhao Fu's expression became serious, and he even took out the Emperor Killing Sword, preparing to deal with any dangers that might appear. Clang! Zhao Fu sent power into the Emperor Killing Sword, and it gave off a sword hum as a black and blood-red energy barrier appeared. The Emperor Killing Sword's defensive barrier was many times stronger than the one Zhao Fu had released. Right now, Zhao Fu did not know what had happened. He could only find out what had happened when he reached the bottom of the cave. Zhao Fu jumped into the hole, and his body quickly fell. The terrifying aura grew stronger as he fell, and Zhao Fu's hair stood on end. By now, the other ministers and generals had arrived, and their expressions were serious because they could sense how terrifying the auras at the cave entrance were. Bai Qi frowned and said to Li Wen, "Why didn't you stop His Majesty from going down? His Majesty is the ruler of Qin City. We can't let anything happen to him." Li Wen bitterly laughed. If Zhao Fu wanted to go down, how could he dare to stop him? Sensing this terrifying aura, no one went down, mainly because they were afraid of making trouble for Zhao Fu. Judging from the terrifying aura, it was not something they could deal with. Wang Jian said, "Let's invite the fallen angel goddess over. She's a bit stronger than His Majesty and should be able to help His Majesty." Hearing this, everyone nodded and invited Erisina to the cave entrance. Sensing the aura at the cave entrance, Erisina looked quite serious. She stood there and thought for a moment before spreading her 24 black wings and flying in. Roar! Zhao Fu, who was continuously falling, suddenly heard a massive roar. He saw a massive worm open its suction cup-like mouth, which was filled with sharp teeth, and it ferociously bit toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's gaze became cold, and he swung the Emperor Killing Sword, sending out a sword light that slashed out, splitting the incoming worm in half and causing black blood to spurt out. Roar! 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 It was as if Zhao Fu had struck a nest of trouble, and countless massive worms crawled out of the cave walls and ferociously bit toward Zhao Fu. Wei the sword. Facing the countless biting worms, Zhao Fu lightly cried out and sent large amounts of power into the Emperor Killing Sword. The Emperor Killing Sword exploded out with boundless sword intent, forming 100,000 different shaped but somewhat transparent swords around Zhao Fu, and a sharp sword Qi exploded out. Qi, Qi, Qi. Zhao Fu's body continuously descended with the countless swords, and as the worms swarmed up, they were instantly slashed apart by the countless swords. Black blood flew everywhere as the attacking worms were cut into countless pieces and fell like rain. Boom! Zhao Fu heavily landed on the worm corpses, and countless pieces of black blood fell down, covering the ground. The blood was incredibly thick, and there was not a single empty spot. Zhao Fu looked around and saw that there was nothing special about this place. The terrifying aura came from below, and after clearing out a region, Zhao Fu saw that the ground seemed to be made of jade and was gray. However, Zhao Fu could not tell what it was, so he could only clear out the worm corpses. A tens of thousands of meters wide jade ground appeared in front of Zhao Fu. At the center of the jade ground was a black circular diagram that was 100 meters wide. Countless black chains stretched out from the sides and gathered towards the black, fusing with the black diagram. The black diagram gave off an intense barrier energy and looked like a ceiling formation. What caught Zhao Fu's attention the most was that there was now a thin opening on the black, from which terrifying auras continuously flowed out. Are you seeking death? Just as Zhao Fu was about to go up and take a look, a cold voice sounded out from above. Zhao Fu looked up and saw that it was Erisina. He felt quite surprised and asked, "Why are you here?" Erisina looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes and coldly harumphed. "It's all because your ministers were worried about your safety and told me to come down and take a look." Facing her resentful gaze, Zhao Fu understood why and smiled as he pulled Erisina into his embrace and asked, "Do you know what this is?" Erisina was hugged by Zhao Fu, and even though her expression was still cold, her attitude had evidently changed. She said softly, "I don't know what this is, but the aura coming from here is the outer world's chaotic aura. If you open it, you'll be in great danger. In fact, this is a secret passageway to the outer world. If you open it, countless outer world creatures will flood in. When that time comes, not only will the Qin kingdom perish, but the tens of thousands of worlds will also suffer." Chapter 1368. However, the key point was that the seal had been broken, which meant that the primal chaos aura from the outer world had been destroyed. The primal chaos aura was the source of the world's energy, and it could greatly damage and corrode anything. Zhao Fu's eyes widened, and he looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not care about this, but what Zhao Fu cared about was that now that the seal had been broken, countless creatures from the outer world would invade at any time. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu's expression became quite serious. This cave was near the Qin Kingdom's imperial city, and once creatures from the outer world flooded in, Qin City would not have time to escape and would be the first to suffer. Zhao Fu went up and examined the seal, and found that most of the seal's power was still there. This allowed Zhao Fu to let out a sigh of relief. There was still a chance. "What are you planning to do?" Erisina asked as she looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he replied, "Of course I'm going to reseal it." Erisina slightly frowned and said earnestly, "With Qin City's current power, I'm afraid it won't be able to unleash powerful sealing power. Qin City is only a small kingdom, and no matter what kind of seal it uses, it won't even be 1,000th of the seal's power. If you use those seals, they will be destroyed by the primal chaos aura in a few days. Without the power of an empire, it would be impossible to seal this crack." Zhao Fu felt quite startled and asked in shock, "Is this seal really that powerful?" Erisina nodded and said, "This is the seal that seals the outer world. It's definitely the most powerful seal in the world. Feel the seal's power. It's at least a half-step celestial who personally sealed this place." Hearing that it was a half-step celestial, Zhao Fu felt quite discouraged and felt that he had underestimated this crack. He asked Erisina, "Now that Qin City is unable to seal it, what should we do?" Erisina thought to herself and said, "Tell the people from the heaven domain about this. A few higher beings should be able to easily resolve this matter." Zhao Fu didn't want to refuse, because this place was near Qin City, and the most important heaven and earth refining formation in Qin City was here. This place couldn't be exposed. Although Zhao Fu also knew a powerful figure, and that powerful figure seemed to be good to Zhao Fu still did not dare to expose all the secrets, because it was related to Qin's life and death. At this time, Zhao Fu was also in a dilemma. On the one hand, Qin was unable to seal the crack. On the other hand, what happened here could not be leaked out. Erisina suddenly said, "Actually, you don't have to be so serious. The outer world rift is just this god's hypothesis. Perhaps there's something sealed here that contains chaos or some powerful creature from the outside world. Now that the rift has been there for so long and there's no reaction from inside, it might not be too dangerous. This god can accompany you in to take a look." Zhao Fu smiled. What Erisina said was right. They were not sure what was sealed here. Perhaps it was not the outer world rift, so there was no need for him to be so nervous. Hearing that Erisina was willing to accompany him, Zhao Fu felt quite grateful as he hugged Erisina and said, "Thank you, my beloved concubine." Erisina did not resist Zhao Fu, and she felt a trace of resentment as she lightly harumphed and said, "This god isn't. Go find your beloved concubines, and don't go to this god's place in the future. Also, don't think that this god doesn't know that you and the light god just did it, and your body is covered with things that you hate." Zhao Fu smiled and did not reply as he took off Erisina's clothes. An order was given, and Yu Ling and Mozax went down to the seal. Seeing Zhao Fu and the red-faced Erisina in Zhao Fu's embrace, they respectfully called out, "What is it, Your Majesty?" Zhao Fu gave them a simple explanation of the seal and had them slowly dispel it. Their abilities were easy to control, and even though Zhao Fu had the ability to destroy the seal, he was afraid of completely destroying it. Mozax and Yu Ling obeyed Zhao Fu's orders and stood next to the rift and started to use their power to gradually dispel the seal. The seal's power gradually weakened, and the rift became larger and larger, causing more and more chaotic qi to flow out. However, their speed was still quite slow, as Mozax and Yu Ling weren't very strong. Zhao Fu suddenly thought of an item that he could use, so he took it out. It was a crystal sword, the Heaven's Sealing Sword. It had extremely powerful sealing power, and it had been used to seal the Death Disaster Beast. However, after the Death Disaster Beast had been transferred to the Death Ray Sword, this sword had become useless. Now, the Heaven Sealing Sword was absorbing the massive sealing power. Zhao Fu stabbed the sword into the ground, and a massive suction force spread out, causing the rift to expand faster and faster. After a few of them disappeared, a 1 meter wide and 2 meters long opening appeared in the crack. Zhao Fu ordered some of Great Qin's experts to stand guard here and gathered a large number of formation masters so that if anything unexpected happened, they could set up a seal in time. Following this, Zhao Fu brought Erisina in. Their surroundings blurred, and Zhao Fu and Erisina arrived at another place. The rift looked like a spatial rift, and thinking about that, Zhao Fu's expression became serious. This was because it was very likely that this seal was not sealing an outer world creature, but a spatial rift in the outer world. By now, Zhao Fu and Erisina had arrived at an underground region. This underground region was 10,000 meters wide and hundreds of meters tall. There were signs of man-made construction, which meant that this massive region was man-made. Moreover, there were powerful restrictions here. Zhao Fu slightly relaxed. This meant that someone had been here before, and they had come through a crack. They had also built an underground region, so this place was most likely quite hidden and would be much less dangerous. Zhao Fu was quite surprised. There was a passageway here that led to some unknown place, and it was quite dark. Zhao Fu thought about it, and decided to walk towards the passageway as he asked Erisina, "Have you been to the outer world battlefield before?" Erisina thought of some unhappy things and said, "The outer world is not restricted by the Heaven Awakened World's laws, so we godly spirits can descend at will." Back then, this god had enmity with the owner of the cosmos historical remnant in the outer world and was sealed within the historical remnant. Hearing Erisina talk about the owner of the cosmos historical remnant, Zhao Fu felt quite interested and asked, "Was the owner of the cosmos historical remnant extremely powerful?" Erisina nodded. "That person was extremely terrifying, and his strength was almost at the level of a celestial. Otherwise, this god would not have been sealed by him so easily. However, after that person reincarnated, he has never appeared again." Chapter 1369. If a person who was about to become a celestial retained their memories and had their source energy recultivated, just how terrifying would their power be? However, there was no need to think about the cosmos' historical remnant for now. Right now, it was more important to face the problem at hand. They were almost certain that this was the outer world battlefield, and there was dense primal chaos aura everywhere. Erisina was quite familiar with this place, and she could confirm that the thing sealed here was the outer world battlefield. She felt quite unlucky. Of course, she was also glad that this place had been developed before, so it was not dangerous for now. It seemed to be deep underground. The two of them continued onwards and saw countless bones. There were humans, orcs, demons, and angels. There were also many strange bones that most likely belonged to outer world creatures. Seeing these countless bones, Zhao Fu and Erisina became more careful and continued onwards. Finally, Zhao Fu and Erisina came before a massive metal door. The metal door was a dark silver color and was covered with countless runes. There were all sorts of precious jewels embedded on it, and it gave off a powerful aura. This metal door was most likely the final layer of protection here. Once they opened this door, they would arrive at the true outer world battlefield and encounter those terrifying outer world creatures. Zhao Fu felt quite hesitant. Should he continue onwards and see what the outer world battlefield was like? Or should he quickly go back and try to seal this place again? Let's continue onwards. This place is much safer than this god thought. Even though the outer world battlefield is quite dangerous, there are countless opportunities, Erisina said. Zhao Fu stood there and thought about it. After all, they would have to face the outer world battlefield sooner or later. Hearing Erisina say that this place was quite safe, Zhao Fu did not have any worries and decided to personally see what the outer world battlefield was like. Zhao Fu and Erisina pushed open the door and walked out. They were still in a dark passageway, and Zhao Fu and Erisina continued onwards. After some time, there was finally some light ahead, and after walking towards the light, the two of them arrived outside. He was within a hidden canyon, and looking at the world outside, Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. The sky was a resplendent river of stars, and even though it was desolate, it was not dark. A light breeze blew, making it seem like a normal world. It wasn't like what Zhao Fu had imagined, with mountains of corpses and rivers of blood. The sky was dyed red, and the ground was filled with a chaotic and cold aura. Erisina said, "This is the outer world star river night. There are normally 12 moons and 8 suns during the day. 12 moons at night, 8 suns in the day." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. However, he was sure that the outer world was different from the Heaven Awakened world. It was only a bit brighter at night, but with 8 suns during the day, who would be able to endure the searing heat? Erisina looked around before spreading her 24 wings and flying into the sky. Zhao Fu wanted to follow her, but Erisina told Zhao Fu to stay here because she understood the outer world battlefield better. As such, Zhao Fu obeyed and stayed here. In the sky, Erisina looked around and quickly flew back. She landed in front of Zhao Fu and said, "You can relax now. This is most likely the boundary region of the outer world battlefield, and it won't be as dangerous. However, this god must warn you that this doesn't mean there won't be any dangers. The outer world battlefield is a place where even celestials can die if they aren't careful." Zhao Fu nodded seriously and smiled as he brought Erisina into his embrace and asked, "You understand the outer world quite well, so tell me what to do next." Erisina intimately hugged Zhao Fu and leaned her head against Zhao Fu's shoulder as she thought about it, and said, "This god will tell you that the outer world battlefield is incredibly big and is not any smaller than the Heaven Awakened world. There were some rumors that the outer world battlefield is similar to the Heaven Awakened world, but no one knows if this is true or not. However, the first thing that every faction that came to the outer world battlefield had to do was establish their own base and set up defenses. They had to gather a large number of soldiers and resources, and only after they had a stable footing would they be able to do this. If they did not even have a base, when the outer world creatures attacked, They would be like a plate of loose sand, running and hiding without any purpose. Under normal circumstances, every faction would fight on their own and would not receive any help from others. As such, it was impossible to not have a base, as there was no way to go to other people's bases. Moreover, the outer world's laws were different to the heaven-awakened worlds. City Lord seals and nation armaments could not be used here, and city creation stones could not be used here either. Some of the stats that cities and kingdoms gave would also disappear here. After having a base, the second thing was to find things that could block the sunlight. During the day, the 8 suns would roast the ground, and ordinary soldiers would not be able to withstand it all. They would be burnt to death, so they had to prepare all sorts of magic formations. During the day, it was almost impossible to move, and only at night, when the 8 suns disappeared, could they leave the base. However, the outer world creatures had long since adapted to the 8 suns, so they would often attack during the day. Of course, there were ways to deal with this, such as the outer world sunlight gemstones that could be socketed on equipment, making them immune to the damage of the sun. Right now, the Qin kingdom had not become a royal kingdom yet, so it was quite weak. Luckily, it was in the boundary region, so it would be much less dangerous. This god wants you to build a base as soon as possible so that you can make ample preparations in the future. Also, don't hope to subdue the outer world creatures. Of the 5 main types of outer world creatures, it is almost impossible to subdue the insect type, and there is only a slight chance of subduing the water type, beast type, and bird type. Humanoid type is also quite difficult. If ordinary factions capture them, they will kill them to obtain points, or else they will turn on you at any time. There are also many crafty outer world creatures that will pretend to surrender, and ordinary restrictions are useless against them. As such, it will often result in great losses. Aren't you researching spirit destruction crystals? Those are indeed very useful against outer world creatures, but ordinary spirit destruction crystals have very little effect. In fact, some outer world creatures have already found ways to deal with ordinary spirit destruction crystals. Now, you can capture a few outer world creatures and experiment with them to create powerful spirit destruction crystals that will be of great use in future battles. Chapter 1370. Alright, that's all this god has to say. There are only 2 or 3 hours until the sun rises, so you should capture some outer world creatures and bring them back. Otherwise, large numbers of outer world creatures might appear during the day, and you won't be able to use your nation armament here, so you might be in danger, Ericina said as she looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded, saying, "Luckily I brought you this time, or else who knows how much trouble we would have encountered," Ericina said angrily. "Now that you know how good this god is, let's see if you still dare to treat this god coldly in the future. You knew that this god wanted to do it with you, yet you didn't come to the Darkness God Palace for a few days. This god really wants to tear you into pieces." Zhao Fu looked quite innocent as he explained, "There were many things going on back then. Didn't I make it up to you? You can't blame me for always treating me so coldly." Ericina was still quite displeased, saying, "Back then, you knew how you ravaged this god. If you treat this god badly in the future, this god will definitely return to the godly world." After saying this, Ericina added, "Also, this god will treat you better now." Zhao Fu lightly laughed. "All right, there's not much time left. We don't have much time left, so we should quickly capture some creatures from the outside world and prepare to build a settlement." Ericina did not continue, and the 2 of them started to look for outer world creatures as well as a suitable place to build a base. This was a place that led to the outer world, so of course it could not be used as a base. Otherwise, once it was discovered, countless outer world creatures would rush into the heaven-awakened world, and Qin would be the first to suffer. Zhao Fu did not plan to expose this place, and he instead planned to find a suitable place to build a base. A while later, Zhao Fu found 10 or so massive ants. These ants were all 2 meters long and were fiery red. They had a short horn on their heads and were not very strong, only having stage 1 cultivation. This was called the fire red ant. It was the most numerous insect-type outer-world creature. It had almost no intelligence and only knew how to destroy and destroy. 10 or so flaming ants sensed Zhao Fu and quickly charged at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu chopped half of the ants in half with a single sword light, causing fiery red blood to splatter everywhere. The remaining ants sensed danger and immediately retreated. Clang, clang, clang. Chains shot out from the ground, giving off ferocious power as they bound up the escaping fire-red ants, and Zhao Fu threw them into the ring that stored living creatures. The more outer-world life forms they captured, the better. That way, the spirit destruction crystals they created would be able to suppress more life forms and deal more damage to them. At the same time, as he was killing the fire-red ant, a series of notifications rang out in Zhao Fu's mind. Notification: you have killed a fire-red ant and obtained 1 outer world point. Notification: you have killed a fire-red ant and obtained 1 outer world point. Notification: you have killed a fire-red ant and obtained 1 outer world point. As mentioned before, anyone from the Heaven Awakened world who killed outer world creatures will be able to obtain outer world points, which could be used to exchange for precious treasures. As for the place to exchange, Zhao Fu did not have one yet. After all, he needed to kill 100,000 stage 1 outer world creatures, 10,000 stage 2 outer world creatures, 1,000 stage 3 outer world creatures, and 100 stage 4 outer world creatures to activate the Exchange Stone Steel. The main function of the Exchange Stone Steel was to use outer world points to exchange for items. It also had some city stats, but it was quite weak and only had a slight territorial intimidation effect. Chi, chi, chi. A sharp sword light shot out, slashing 2-meter-long green worms into countless pieces, causing green blood to fly everywhere. These green worms were called green cave worms and had stage 1 strength. Bang, bang, bang. A ray of sword light shot out, bringing with it a terrifying sword wind as it cut down the flying beetles in the air. These beetles had blue spots on their backs and a feeler on their heads that gave off a faint blue light. These beetles were called blue speckled beetles. Clang, clang, clang. Zhao Fu slashed out with a sword light, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Countless sparks flew everywhere as 3-meter-long centipedes were chopped into pieces. These centipedes' backs seemed to be made of iron and were incredibly tough. These centipedes were called Iron Wall centipedes. Although it had only been a short 2 hours, Zhao Fu had caught more than 20 types of outer world creatures. 90% of them were insect-shaped outer world creatures, and only 10% were other outer world creatures. As for humanoid creatures, there was not a single one. A dazzling white light shot out from the horizon, and a scorching aura swept through the originally cold world. 8 blinding suns gave off boundless light as they slowly rose up. After being hit by the sunlight, Zhao Fu immediately felt a burning sensation on his skin. He immediately unleashed a defensive barrier to block the sunlight. The 8 suns outside gave off the aura of dawn as they slowly rose together. The scene was incredibly shocking, and the power of the sunlight could not be underestimated either. It was enough to scorch a person to death. Aracena felt a bit shy and nervous as she called out, "Husband, it's daytime. Let's return to Qin City." Zhao Fu looked at her in surprise. It was the first time he had heard her call him like this. He lightly laughed and hugged her as they flew towards the hidden passageway. Suddenly, a man appeared in Zhao Fu's vision. He had a well-built body and tan skin. He had short blue hair and red slitted eyes. He held a coarse stone spear and had a few pieces of human skin tied around his waist. There are also some bone pendants on his body. He's a humanoid outer world creature, Aracena said as she looked at the man. Out of the 5 outer world creatures, humanoid outer world creatures were the rarest. At the same time, they were the most suitable for experiments, and Zhao Fu smiled as he flew towards the man. Seeing Zhao Fu from the Heaven Awakened world, the man's gaze was filled with savagery as he gripped the stone spear in his hand and vigorously threw it out. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the stone spear shot out like a bolt of lightning, seeming to be able to pierce through steel. Facing the incoming stone spear, Zhao Fu disdainfully coldly laughed and casually slashed out, shattering the stone spear into countless shards. At the same time, a terrifying aura spread out from his body. The man's expression fell. He had never thought that there would be someone as powerful as Zhao Fu in such a remote region. He hurriedly turned and ran, not daring to stay for even a moment longer. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and 10 or so chains flew out, binding up the man. The man furiously cursed at Zhao Fu, but Zhao Fu could not understand what he was cursing at. The language stone was useless here and could not record this language. Chapter 1371. After returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu wanted to know the outer world creatures' special stats so that it would be easier to kill them in the future. As such, he personally watched how the outer world creatures were researched. Now, Qin had hundreds of thousands of scholars in charge of research. Not only were there human beings, but there were also goblins, elves, and other races. Each of them had high intelligence and were very suitable to be researchers. Because the outer world battlefield was incredibly important, Zhao Fu ordered Bai Shan to gather Qin's best researchers to start researching outer world creatures. The first captured fire red ant was tied to a stone table, and the scholars started to dissect it. They separated its blood, organs, flesh, and limbs, and then they started to study it. Moreover, there were all sorts of tests, such as using ordinary swords and sabers to stab into the fire red ant's armor. There were also all sorts of equipment used to test the blood, and there were also people who injected the blood into some rabbits' bodies. His flesh did not have a fine knife either. He gently divided it into strips according to the lines, and was also doing all kinds of tests. Following this, they dissected more than 10 outer world creatures, and the scholars came to the same conclusion. Bai Shan took a document and reported, "Your Majesty, through preliminary research, outer world creatures' constitutions have a certain defense against the heaven-awakened world's spirit chi. If they are attacked by spirit chi, their power will be greatly reduced. Moreover, outer world creatures' defenses are stronger than creatures of the same level, and they also have primal chaos aura. Ordinary swords and sabers will not be able to deal much damage." Zhao Fu felt quite surprised because the outer world creatures' levels were too low, and he had not sensed that these outer world creatures had attributes that weakened his spirit force. Spirit energy was the most basic energy in the Heaven-Awakened world, and it was the energy that created the Heaven-Awakened world. Everyone in the Heaven-Awakened world had spirit chi, and the demonic chi, devil chi, and ghostly chi were all transformed from the most basic spirit chi. In other words, outer world creatures innately had the power to defend against the Heaven-Awakened world. Zhao Fu did not know if this was because they were born like this, or if it was because they had fought against the Heaven-Awakened world for many years. The Outer Realm creatures had the ability to defend against spirit chi, adding on the fact that ordinary swords and sabers would find it difficult to damage their carapaces. They were extremely difficult to deal with. No wonder the spirit destruction crystal was so important in the Outer Realm. Without the help of the spirit destruction crystal, it would be very difficult to kill these Outer Realm beings. Ordinary spirit destruction crystals changed the Heaven-Awakened world's spirit chi into crystals, and these outer world creatures naturally could not resist them. After understanding the outer world creatures' stats, the next step was to research special spirit destroying crystals. The scholars had not made any progress because they only knew how to create spirit-destroying crystals. However, they had never seen or heard of outer world creatures. At this time, many scholars had seen and understood these creatures from the outside world. They quickly thought of a way for Zhao Fu to improve the spirit annihilation crystal. He first prepared a spirit gathering formation and gathered the surrounding spirit chi. He then added in the blood of outer world creatures to form a blood crystal that dealt special damage to outer world creatures. This blood crystal was oval-shaped and was as big as a longan fruit. It gave off an outer world primal chaos aura and could be embedded into equipment or ground into powder. After adding it to talismans or pills, it could be used. Of course, everything had to be tested first. A soldier stepped forward with an ordinary spear in his hand and stabbed at a green caveworm. The spearhead stabbed into the green caveworm's body, and its skin and flesh had a kind of toughness to it. Even though the spear stabbed in, the force was reduced slightly. Zhao Fu sent his power into the spear, and the blood crystal gave off a faint light, causing the spearhead to also give off a blood-red light. Pooh! This spear was evidently able to stab into the green cave insect's body more easily than before. The resistance from its skin and flesh disappeared, and the effects were quite good. Zhao Fu was delighted and ordered people to mass-produce spirit blood crystals because Zhao Fu wanted to create a base in the outer world. These spirit blood crystals did not require a lot of outer world creatures' blood, and they were only used to change spirit chi. Zhao Fu had brought back the corpses of the outer world creatures that he had killed before, so he could create a batch of spirit blood crystals first. These spirit blood crystals were quite simple and did not have any killing techniques. As such, Zhao Fu had them continue to research the higher-grade spirit destruction crystals. A while later, Zhao Fu came to a research room where a humanoid outer world creature was tied up. This humanoid outer world creature was the man that Zhao Fu had captured, and there were various scholars conducting various tests. Zhao Fu then used lightning to hit the man, testing how much he could endure lightning. The powerful lightning entered his body, causing his body to violently tremble. He felt immense pain, but he gritted his teeth and endured. He still had a backbone. Following this, the researchers continued to use flames to burn his arm. The immense pain caused the man to continuously struggle, and he could not help but howl. Not only was his body tied up, but there were also a few soldiers pressing down on his body, making it so that he could not move as they continued with their experiments. The flames stopped, and the researchers started to check the extent of the man's arm. They also recorded it and applied some ointment, and they continued to observe the effects of the medicine on the outer world creatures. In the end, they found that ordinary medicine did not have much of an effect on outer world creatures. This was quite a big discovery, and it was recorded in the files. Following this, they used small knives to cut open the man's skin to check his recovery and recovery abilities. The continuous tests made the man unable to endure it, and he howled. He wanted to die, but with his current conditions, he was unable to die. In the end, he was tortured to the point where he was on his last breath. The others coldly continued with their tests, and Zhao Fu watched from the side. Hearing the howls, his expression did not change at all, let alone this person. Even if there were 100,000 people, Zhao Fu's expression would not change. Moreover, this was an outer world creature, and there were a few pieces of human skin tied up on his body. This man definitely was not a good person. Your Majesty, the results are out. A robed scholar held a pile of documents as he respectfully said to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu nodded and had him describe the information he had obtained from the man. Finally, the scholar took out a language stone and said, "Your Majesty, this is a special language stone. We've deciphered his language, and after using it, you will be able to learn it." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite delighted and smiled as he received the language stone. He used it and learned the outer world's language. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.